The following is intended for mature audiences only. Discretion is advised.
Thank you so much for downloading this episode of So What Do You Really Do, the podcast where I, your host, Deadair Dennis Maler, interview artists and entertainers about their day jobs. And this one is going to be, all right, fair warning. This took a lot of editing to get it to make sense. My guest on the podcast today is Dianne Carroll, filmmaker, comedian, Dianne Carroll. She, all right, so this is what happened. I met Dianne a couple weeks ago at JP Porch Fest, Jamaica Plain Porch Fest, which was, let's talk about that real quick. All right, before I get into that. So JP Porch Fest, I did not secure the location. The organizers secured me a location that I was going to share with two bands. And they gave me my perfect time slot that I wanted, 2 to 4 p.m. And by the way, if you came out the JP Porch Fest and you watched the show, thank you so much. It was a great audience. The show was fantastic. Everyone pretty much did a good job for the most part. So, and the bands were awesome and they were great. I get there early and nobody else there. We're using my PA, because I don't want to change them in between bands. I want a quick downtime, so we can get right into things. So I just offer we'll use my PA. The first band uses it, fine, not a problem. Second band, they're like, oh, it's not loud enough, we're going to use our own. So they use their own. But here's the problem. Even before they even got there, our contact for the location was not the person for the place. He didn't answer his emails. He didn't answer the phone. Nobody was there. It was a building that's shared by like a masseuse and a law office and I guess an apartment upstairs. So I get there early. Nobody else is there. I'm texting and emailing the other bands. None of them are replying. Nobody's answering. And I'm like, there's no power. How are we doing this? So I'm trying to get a hold of everybody. And eventually the band show up and we get all this. We ask the place next door, hey, can we use it? I asked the bank across the street, hey, can we use this? And we're all figuring out. And then I call the masseuse or the acupuncturist, whatever it was. And she calls me back and goes, hey, you said you needed something about JP Porch Fest? I'm like, yeah, we just need a power outlet. She goes, all right, I thought somebody else was taking care of this, but I live upstairs. I'll be right down. We go out, meet her. She lets me in. We plug everything in, and everything went fine. But it was just like an hour and a half and 2 hours of just annoying hassle that didn't need to be because somebody else didn't plan things. That's why I like to keep things in my own hands. That way I don't have to worry about other people screwing up. But everything worked out fine in the end. So here's the thing, though. I had a comedian from New York. He was in town. He hit me up with a message on Facebook. He's like, hey, I'm going to be in town from New York. Here's my tape. Any chance I could do a spot on your show? And I was like, the tape's funny. It's good. Here's the thing. It's a daytime, outdoor, afternoon show. I'm not asking any comedians to be clean, but understand that there may be, it's going to be a mixed audience. There may be children. There may be people who don't want to hear dirty, offensive stuff. Do you have, all I'm saying is, I'm warning you that I'm not going to ask you to be clean, but I'm only booking people who I know that have the material to be able to shuck and jive, who's going to be able to handle that kind of environment. If the audience is into it, if they're into the dirty stuff, that's fine. Go ahead and do it. But if they're not, divert. He goes, yeah, that's fine. It's great. Anyway, he didn't do well. It just wasn't his audience. He's a funny guy, but he did not do well in them, and I had to get him out early. Because he was just dying up there, and I'm not going to subject it. But anyway, Dianne Carroll, who is my guest on the podcast, she is a photographer, filmmaker, comedian from Chicago by way of New York. Or she came from, she did some schooling in New York. You heard all about it, but she's originally from Chicago. And she's here for the summer doing a directing class at Harvard Extension School, which she'll talk more about because she's a filmmaker. Was taking pictures for Freddie. Saw that I had a website and said, hey, you got a podcast. I'd love to be a guest on it sometime. And I'm like, yeah, sure, not a problem. And she really just strong-armed her way into being a guest, which is fine. She was like, no, we need to set a date. When can I come on? I was like, tomorrow? She's like, yeah, fine, great. And we leave. And she comes back, no, tomorrow's not going to work. I forgot. I can't do tomorrow. When else? When else? I was like, Friday. She's like, all right, great, perfect. Friday, what time? 8 p.m. Here's the address. I'll see you then. All right, great. She comes over, we did the podcast, it was a fun time. But, so, here's the thing, though. It's a little bit hard to follow because she goes off on tangents. She has attention deficit disorder and other things that we'll get into on the podcast. And it's a fascinating listen, I think, because we talk a lot of veterans' rights, how our veterans, military vets are being taken care of because she was in the military. She did counterintelligence for the military, which is, if you ask me, fascinating because I had no idea what any of that was. Like I thought counterintelligence was like spies and like Alan Turing and stuff like that, and it's not. But we talk about it. So she explains her whole role of that when she became a mother. She also talks heavily about mental illness, which I think is a lot of fascinating stuff. So she goes off on tangents. She's a little hard to follow sometimes, but I think I did a great job of editing it and roping her in during the conversation and doing wrap ups when she got too far off topic, just wrapping it back up to get to the subject. So if you can follow through on the podcast, it's an interesting listen. So please enjoy this episode with counterintelligence agent and filmmaker Dianne Carroll.
Chasing Amy. She made me look good. I thought I was a big whore in my 20s, and I may have watched, what do they call it, Chinese standard porn?
Yeah.
But I never did it.
Thought about it. Checked it out.
No, not even thought about it, but like enjoyed watching it for some reason. I watched it once, and this girl was like, "Am I a slut because I like it?" And I kept rewinding that part. Goddamn.
Did you guys start filming yet?
Okay, wait. Is this how you want to start? Just
yeah,
like
I don't do an
into
intro.
it?
I do an intro in the post.
Oh, great. Okay, so you know what? No, I picked up all the equipment today. I got two 10-foot tall box lights. I mean, they adjust, right? They can go up and down. So the lighting is going to be beautiful. I have a floodlight on set, which I'll tell you about in a minute. I picked up a fucking oops. Is that cool?
It's fine, yeah.
All right. It's
a very relaxed conversation.
All right. Yeah, I just don't know. Like, so I have a friend, 92 The Zoo, down in Mobile, Alabama, and my first radio show, he's like, please just no cursing, Diane, whatever you do. So now I'm like, well, I want to respect you because I really thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Well, you did strong your way into it.
Yeah.
Strong arm your way into it.
Oh, I strong armed, right? Let's get back to that. Please come full circle. Let me just finish telling you about the equipment I'm using.
Yeah.
And then I got a nice little AVC camera or what have you. Bada bing, bada boom. And so we're shooting tomorrow in Dunstable, Massachusetts. That's northern Mass, a little bit, right?
Is it?
I thought it was fucking New Hampshire, for Christ's sake, until he sent me the goddamn actual address. So, yeah.
I thought Dunstable was by the Cape.
By the Cape?
Yeah, I really don't know much of Massachusetts, though. I've only been here 4 years.
The Cape may have an Unstable in it somewhere.
Probably. Possibly.
The Cape. Oh, man.
Oh, Dunstable is north of here.
Dunstable is north here. Okay, so...
It's by the state line.
Okay, so that's where we're going. We got this guy. He insists on a producer credit, but hell, I don't mind giving him a producer credit because all my shots, scout locations were outside. It's shitty outside. It's okay if he leans against mine.
I thought it was the chair at first.
It's okay.
Or the table at first.
Our knees were just touching out there in the audience, and it wasn't awkward. It was comfortable, but now we're not touching knees, and it's just as comfortable. So I'm giving him co-producer credit because he's giving us this. When he was a little boy, he told his mother, "Mom, when I grow up," and how would you do this in a Boston accent? What do Boston kids sound like?
Ma. They sound like old Boston men. That's basically.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a sentence.
Ma.
I'm going to give you a sentence, and you say it in a Boston accent.
Let's not. I'm not the best at accents.
Okay, so
I'm not a native of here.
Basically, my co-producer on the project, or just a producer on the project, he told his mother when he grew up that he wanted to buy a barn, how do you say, a ranch house with a barn of his own, a big red barn. And I'll be goddamned if he didn't grow up, start working for Boston Labs and could afford one. So he's giving us, and it's like in a bachelor pad, but like like your house, it's clean. So it's not like, it's disgusting. So every room's immaculate, and every room is like, one is like set in, the Wild Wild West. And then the next room you go in is like this tanker room, which I'd only seen once before. And that was when I was on a public affairs deployment. Let me just carry this out real quick. When I was on a public affairs deployment, my first time to Mobile, Alabama, and we entered the USS Alabama, go figure. It was a battleship, and we went to the heart of it, right? Climbing down all these pipes and tunnels. I felt like a goddamn Boy Scout and shit. And we finally get to the center of this big, huge boat, and there's this tiny room with all these knickknacks and gadgets that fix the ship. It was so cool. It was just so fucking authentic. Do you ever see that in life anymore? Just, you know what I mean? And this exists in this guy's home, so I get to film there, and it's mind blowing. I can't wait. This location is out of control, and he said he's going to have a craft service table for us.
Oh, nice. Yeah. It's nice when somebody provides the craft services for you.
No shit.
How did you stumble across this guy?
I stumbled across him. Well, I'm going to talk about craft services real quick. I was on a show called Chicago Justice for one episode. No big deal. But they had craft services, which was mad decent. So, like, one day when I get big budget, and then I hear some people are dicks about craft services. Like, for instance, Elton John. Not Elton John. Goddamn, who's the not dead guy?
Elton John's not dead.
No, the not dead guy of the Beatles, who was like the lead singer.
Oh, Paul McCartney?
Yeah, Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Like, he's all vegan. Everybody gets vegan food. So, like, you get a whole bunch of roadies who just want a pulled pork fucking sandwich.
Yeah, they just want to stuff satisfying meat into their face.
Yeah, and instead they're getting, like, tofu meat.
Well, he's also been a vegetarian a very long time. Like,
well, good for him.
Long before it was like.
But that's just, you know what I mean. Like, I have my own sexuality, but I don't make everybody else be my sexuality because they're working for me. It's the same thing. Like, if you are what you eat. This is. I love.
Okay, craft services are fun. I've been on a couple sets, and it is just the grazing of all day, just the food, just everything's always there, and it's just you're just constantly putting food in your mouth because you just need something to do. You're standing around, you're talking, you need to fidget. Yes, it's the worst.
Do you like?
It's the best, but also the worst.
I don't know how you think, but I think a lot of money sometimes, and I'm like, God damn, craft services is like wicked expensive.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that is like the way when it comes to movies and TV budgets, when I see these things, if you think about how much money they spend on food, because it's what, craft services, and then there's the other company that does food. Like, they're two different services. Like, lunch and dinner are done by one, and craft services are like snacks throughout the day, even though it's like, oh, we made homemade taquitos.
Well, like, what do you think the theory behind that is? Like, happy people, fed people, productive people.
Yeah, I guess something like that. I mean, they're there all day, might as well feed them.
Yeah.
Especially in the no budget sector. Like,
I mean, I raised an infant till he was 3, and it was just like, yeah, you're here all day. I guess I should feed you. So it was a craft services thing.
Yeah, just let the kid graze every once in a while.
Yeah.
Actually, but yeah, craft services are so tempting, and it's just so difficult to deal with.
I love it, but then you obviously never see any of the main characters out there eating unless they're like rockers. I dabbled in the music industry, so I saw that once happen, and yuck, change the subject. But before craft services, we were talking about what?
The guy. How did you come across this guy for the location?
Oh, the guy from the location. I stand-up comic in town who is in Boston, rather, who I should give a big shout out to right now. His name's You Better Call Tyrone
Jones.
Tyrone Jones.
Oh,
he's been my in the Boston comic scene.
Tyrone is one of the friendliest guys in town.
And he's just been nice to me. I'm like, where's the comedy at? And he answers. You know, we have plans to go see that new movie, The Big Sick, on Friday if we make it. But I've really, so I've really come to I really appreciate him because I don't know why I've been so shy in the Boston comedy scene. I think it really, really smart people intimidate me. So. But anyways, going back to I have a grin on my face, but Tyrone is just giving me the in on so many, he introduced me to Jed's Basement. Oh my God.
The infamous Jed's Basement.
I love Jed's fucking basement.
Especially now that they redesigned it. It's much bigger. It's more homier.
Yeah.
The concept in general was great. And now that they flipped the room around 180 degrees and they cleared out like the whole back half.
Yeah.
So now it's actually
Those assholes.
You can have room and sit down, and the chairs aren't on top of each other.
It's ergonomical. And you know what? Those assholes built a green room.
Yes, they did that too.
How cute is that?
Yes. Which it's just as dirty as the upstairs kitchen, which was the previous unofficial green room.
I can't say I never met anybody I didn't like. Actually, one of the girls working with, the lead girl, my lead girl is Valley. Last
D,
name,
yeah.
Valley D. I cannot pronounce her last name.
Valley Russian last name.
Yeah, so I met Valley at Jed's, and I casted her right on the spot. You can tell by somebody, but I can. I'm not clairvoyant, but by the look in their eyes, like, this woman's smart. I would love to have her on board, and I needed to cast. So. I love working with comics. Yeah. Oh, but anyways, so blah, 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 blah. Tyrone Jones, and I called Tyrone, and I'm like, well, what are you doing today? And he's like, I'm like, let's go see that movie, because we've been trying to see this movie for a while. And he's like, well, I'm going to this party. You weren't invited? And I'm like, no, I wasn't invited. I didn't say that. But he's like, you should come. And I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, it's in my neighborhood. So I go. I meet these girls. One's name was Amanda. And then I met this other girl. Her name was Amanda. But I'm really bad with names. So it turns out they are a lesbian couple. A couple. Let's just say couple. Amanda's are a couple. And they're friends with some Boston improvers. And it was like a Boston improv / stand-up meetup. Barbecue where we had a fucking ball. I'm very much, I love working all the time. And if people want to produce content, then since I am a guerrilla filmmaker, when better than like now?
Yeah.
So we shot like a musical montage that day at the party. I had these blank scenes that I picked up from the Harvard directing class that I'm taking, and they're really fun. We can go over a few here in a minute if you'd like. It's very short. But so we just had so much fun. And the Amandas, the next day, I text message them. It's the 4th of July, and I have nothing to do. And in Harvard Square for some reason, messaged them. They invited me out. So at this point, I still don't know both of their names. I know one of their names is Amanda, but I'm calling both of them Amanda.
They are now the Amandas, yes.
And so I get in the car and I'm like, you guys, I have to be quite frank and honest. I'm actually calling both of you Amanda. And they're like, well, that's because our names are Amanda. I'm like, wait, you guys are a couple and your name's Amanda. You're Amandas. So kind of from that, it's just such a small... it's a small town, Go-Go Boots. It's a small town, Boston. It's a small town comedy.
Yeah. So we're hanging out with the Amandas on...
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I have ADD really bad. Thank you for... You're a good host. So hanging out with the Amandas, they picked me up from Harvard Square and we drove to what I thought was New Hampshire, which turns out to be Dunstable, Mass. Right? And we get to this fabulous farmhouse. It was the one John Mason, the co-producer, had told his mom that he was going to buy when he was a little kid. So that's where we met John. He was grilling. He had these 2 big ducks in the backyard. He has about like 4 acres of land off of some road, and a pool. And so I spent all day outside in the pool area. And then I got the tour of the home, and the tour of the home is just amazing. And he had mentioned, something to the effect of, I am going to be letting the local theater guild know that they can have full access to my 5-story brand new red barn that's attached to the house. I mean, it fucking smells.
5-story barn?
It smells like carpenter sweat. It's so new.
Why do you need a barn that's 5 stories?
I know.
It's not an
You
ark.
need it for my tea party. It smells like sweat from like maybe the upholstery shop Jack White. No. Maybe he used to work in Jack White. I say his name 3 times like Beetlejuice. He never shows
hoping he'll show up.
Yeah.
Have you tried it in the mirror with the lights off like Bloody Mary instead?
No, god damn it, no. But Jack White does look like a ghost fucked a vampire. So maybe if I did do the Bloody Mary route, he would spiritually be here. That's okay, Diane. That's okay, Diane. So we met him on the 4th of July, and he was like all thanks, like all Massachusetts, New Englanders, like you're just like Chicagoans. You're not gonna break for at least 45 minutes, and it's only until I say something smart finally that, you know, like people will be super friendly. So John Mason was not entirely friendly, you know, at first. He said, this is a great location. Well, I said, thank you for the, you know, letting me be here. He's like, yes, you're, you know, try to stay on the guest list. We have quite a few parties. And at the end of it, he's like practically giving me the house, which is amazing. I'm quite the charmer sometimes. But no, what I was saying was John Mason was giving me the tour of the home. He's like, yes, I'm going to lend this to the local theater guild here in Dunstable, Mass. Don't you think that's a great idea? Will they love it? And I'm like, yes, they'll love it. And I'm seething with jealousy and quite transparent. And, you know, and at this point, he knows that I'm directing this summer. And he said, well, Diane, if you ever, you know what I mean?
Just waiting for for him to extend the
and
offer.
I told you, I'll tell you what, I used to be like, for some reason, in my younger days, I would close that door on the opportunity. Like, no, I don't need your help. I can do this all by myself. But like, I'm not closing the door on an opportunity like that. That's amazing.
Yeah, when you start getting into like, when you create things when you're young and you're inspired by stuff, you have a tendency just to want to create. You don't care if somebody's around, you do it by yourself. Then when you become older and you've been doing so much stuff by yourself for so long, you start just going, I just want people now to be involved so it's easier on me.
All right.
The more involved, the more people involved, the less work I have to do myself.
I have to tell you what I'm doing right now. I'm lending my hands out as if I'm motioning to you to put your hands on mine like we're playing Miss Mary Mac. Lend me your hands if we should be friends, and we'll make a serpent's mends. This man understands me. God damn it.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's like it's self-starting as an artist, like an artist, right? Anybody can say they're anything. I can say I'm a goddamn doctor, for Christ's sake. It's in my email, Dr. Diane. Doesn't mean I'm a fucking doctor.
It's your Twitter handle.
And we'll talk all about that. Yeah, that is my Twitter handle. I don't tweet that much. I just did it for Jack White's attention. But back to what we were saying okay, this perfect example. I was in touch with America's Worst Chef with the Food Network, and they loved me, and they wanted to promote me, and I had meetings and all the way up to the executive producers. But they had asked me at one point, you know, they're like, what do you do? Because I am in retirement. So we'll circle back to your point, right? So I'm like, I am an artist now. I took that on full time because I've always been an improver. According to Sandy Meisner, 20 years after doing anything, you're an expert. Next year, I'm an expert improviser, gorilla at that. But God damn it, you know. So that in the arts, and then I just decided to dedicate my arts, which we'll get into later. And the analogy was, what were we talking about?
We were talking about bringing people in so you don't have to do all the work yourself.
Yeah. They said to me, they're like, Diane, a typical smirky question, but I'm from the East Coast too, for all intents and purposes, so I can give you a smirky answer. Or even the Midwest, we're really good at being smartasses.
Yeah, Chicago. I don't think Chicago counts as the East Coast.
No, it doesn't. But we're good smartasses nonetheless. It's what we have in common with the East Coast.
Yes.
Anyway, let me finish this train of thought. 1 second. Sorry. So, I said I'm an artist, And they said to me, explain, I did a little bit. Then I said, because I grew up in a period of time when nobody's going to hand me anything. I want a Netflix series. I can say that till I'm blue in the face, That's never going to happen unless you start creating content yourself. So I became a producer. I became director. I became writer. And I've got actors and actresses, accomplished acts to work with me on the sole purpose of the fact that I've got this incredible drive. And that's what you need in this business. You know what I mean? Some say it's luck. Some say it's sucking dick. Some say it's this or that. If you have you know what I mean? You can create anything. So that's what I was saying. Nobody's going to hand you anything in this business. You got to self-start. But God damn, I need an editor, a sound editor. Director of photography would be nice. all those things. That's why we got to collaborate, man.
Yeah, it's nice to have those people doing things so you can wear less hats and your brain can just relax and think about and focus on the one thing that you need to focus on.
What's that? What is that for you?
I was doing, when I started in college, the same thing for me was I was doing a internet radio show. And I was booking the artists, going to shows, interviewing them, producing, doing live segments, meeting people, and then managing a band, 2 bands at the same time.
That fucking rules.
Yeah, so it's like I'm doing all these things, and now that at 36 years old, and you're about the same age as me, all I want to do...
Go fuck yourself, I'm 32.
Yeah, you're almost my age. Yeah.
Do I look old today?
No, you look 32. That's fine.
Go ahead.
That's not
Stop flinching. I'm not going to hurt you. He starts flinching after he said that, by the way. His whole body's very convulsing. Go on.
So it's now at 36, I just want to do I just want to host a show. Or I just want to produce the show and have somebody else have to worry about doing show prep, or interview, or researching guests, or booking people to come on.
Intern. You might want to.
I want an intern. Or I want a producer. I want somebody else to edit my podcast for me.
Yeah.
Just instead of having to do everything myself. Yeah. Same thing with movies. Like, you just want to write and direct or whatever it is that you want to do. You want somebody else to worry about taking the shots and hanging the lights and all that other shit.
I love being producer, but I want somebody else to pay for everything.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, don't we all want somebody else to pay for everything? Especially craft services.
When are we? Especially craft services. John Mason, the co-producer, the guy in Dunstable, giving us the 5 fucking story barn and everything else, is providing craft services. Full circle. Hey, can we talk about my career and stuff?
Yeah, because I'm curious, because you said you're retired.
Yeah.
From military?
Military and the federal government.
What did you do for the federal government?
I was a Veterans Benefit Administration claims examiner.
Okay, so did you serve in the Army, or did you just work with it? I
served in the Army for 6 years. I had a break in service. But 2 of these years, yeah. Do you mind if I just go?
Yeah, go.
Okay, go. Okay,
cool. I'm fascinated.
Yeah,
I want to know.
No, okay. So talking about wearing many hats. My father had a good work ethic. My mom, bless her heart, with as low as her IQ is, had a great work ethic. You know what I mean? Like my little brother. I remember, this is a horrible story to remember him by, but he would be snot, yellow, green nostril coming out of his nose because he just discovered alcohol the night before and would go to work, you know what I mean, and just hang in there. So, my dad had a 7,000 square foot home in the middle of the Great Depression, and not the Great Depression, but the Great Recession. I had to man that, you know what I mean? So, now that I have a little bit of money, I'm like, I'm never doing my own manual labor in my house or housework or anything like that. You know what I mean?
I sit in an office, and I never want to... the 2 things that I always hated when I would do construction work is dig holes and paint walls. And I refuse at this day and age when I hate
painting walls.
When I sit at a desk now that my day job is sitting at a desk, I was like, the only thing I refuse to do is dig holes and paint. I'll help you do everything else. I'll come over and I'll help you build your entire house. But you got to dig the holes and you got to paint the walls. I'll do everything else.
You literally painting walls is the worst. It's what do you even throw Spotify on? And then you're still does that help you forget the fact that you're painting a fucking wall? Yeah,
that you're doing a monotonous, very specific, and I'm also obsessive compulsive, so I can't it can't be perfect. It's going to drive me crazy. Now, at my age, I've now learned that there's certain things out of my control, but still painting, just flicking a little bit of paint everywhere or on myself, and it's so monotonous and boring and
I hated it. I read a short story. I read short stories, and it was about yellow wallpaper. And then I just always thought about, and I had this asshole brother-in-law right when I got out of the military. God, I had to go live with never again will I live with family. Getting older
especially
actually
in-laws.
Kicks a lot of ass. Yeah, and he was pretty fucking arrogant, but he's also did some pretty miraculous things in my life for a human being. So we don't hate him entirely. But he did insist that I pull my weight around the house. which I just told you I'm a naturally lazy person. I will have a house cleaner instead of toilets. So he said, Diane, we have it was like a 3,000 square foot home. They wanted to paint every fucking wall. All right. And I didn't have an iPod. And there was no air conditioning in the house.
The late 90s, yeah.
And he was
Early
like
2000s.
an old drill sergeant treating me like I was, So that was the last time I painted. I'm like, you know what? F you. I'm not, I hate painting walls.
So when did you go into the Army?
Oh,
18?
okay. Yeah. I took one of those, bada bing, bada boom, left high school early because of the ADD, which is clear. You guys have heard it all throughout this podcast. And then I took like one of those years off and moved up north to New Jersey to visit.
So you graduated early, or did you drop out?
I dropped out.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
At 16?
Can I be honest?
15? 12?
15.
9? 15?
Sophomore year.
Jeez.
But
that's
I'm going to
early.
impress you. I'm going to impress
That's
you.
fine, yeah.
I'm
not judging.
Well, I just think that, like, the way my brain is wired, like, every moment I'm learning right now, staring at your fucking wallpaper and listening to you. And it's just a continual process. It partly makes me a great writer. It's the power of observation. It's the power of, so, you know what I mean? I didn't fit in fucking high school. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't, and I left.
High school's less about learning book smarts. Well, that's important too, but it's more about learning social skills. And if you're already someone who has social skills or don't care about social skills, high school could be the worst place to be. It's where you learn to become a person. But if you're already kind of a person who's able to interact with others, then what the fuck are you doing there anyway?
I was the most popular girl in school. Do you know that?
No, I wouldn't have, but okay. I can see it.
My brother was in the bathroom once. And, like, some guy walked up to him and he's like, your sister Diane. I wasn't popular for, like, the cool reasons. You know what I mean? I just fucking love everybody. I love people.
You're infamous.
And I just love talking and just... So that was how my high school was spent.
So you leave high school, you take a year off.
So I brought Diet Coke so I could wake up. Where's my Coke?
It's in the bag there. There's
my coffee.
Yeah, there's coffee.
Yeah,
right
so no. Okay, so I left high school. I moved up to New Jersey. My godmother's an American Airlines flight attendant. She exposed me to fine art for the first time, and I went fucking nuts. I never thought I'd be a comedian one day, but, like, she brought me to New York. Long story short. And then I had to make a decision. They're like, Diane, because we just all watched the movie Hair together as a family. Wow.
Yeah, there's a crazy movie to show a 15-year-old.
Well, I was like, how did my godmother, and she's African American. She's married to a Jewish man who was in a band called the Dovells. They were a one-hit wonder in the 60s. The Bristol Stomp and all these other things. But anyways, they would teach me these life lessons through, like, multimedia channels. Like, for instance, when I expressed interest in journalism, they insisted I watch it Almost Famous, which, that movie changes your life. And James Cameron is somebody to look up to, and yada, yada, yada. Later on, I ended up living an Almost Famous lifestyle. Man, I hope Michael Panico's listening.
Who's Michael Panico?
I'll tell you all about my Somerville Michael Panico here in a minute. He would kill me if he heard this. Or maybe he wouldn't. He's so cute. I miss you. Anyways, long story short, so I'm like, I'm thinking about joining the military. My sister did it. I'm taking a Private Benjamin route. No way I'm getting deployed. This and that. I'll get in, get out.
What's a Private Benjamin route?
Private Benjamin was when Goldie Hawn played. It's kind of a stupid trailer, maybe. They recruited Goldie Hawn to the military, and they promised her like Santa Barbara, California, or Maui, which is fucking
lush and comfortable and not threatening at all.
Yeah. So I kind of was, I'm growing up and I'm becoming less naive, and like I'm pretty smart, but like hell, I didn't think anything bad was gonna happen to me. you know?
Yeah. So you joined. So
I joined the military.
Dropped out of school at 15. Spent a year with your godmother learning about art and journalism and all that stuff. In
Got
Chicago,
my
went to New
GED
York.
like
At
really
least you got your
fast.
GED. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, I totally got my GED immediately.
Good.
My
then
gen-
you.
yeah.
So
And
you
so
joined
then
the
I
military.
joined. I tested. Well, I told you I wasn't stupid.
Yeah.
And I got into counterintelligence.
Okay. That's a thing they still do.
I'm sorry.
That's a thing that the military still does.
It's at a very low echelon. Any kind of like good news rather. Any kind of work that counterintelligence at the echelon I was working at, if it were actually of substance, we would have to push it up the channels. And then the CIA or the FBI, depending on what jurisdiction we were in, would take over the case. Here's the funny thing. We'd write it. I had a top secret, sensitive, compartmented information clearance that I would use only in training. I never hurt anybody, and I never went overseas. But that's what they gave me. But a friend, an interrogator friend of mine at Abu Ghraib, real quick story, he would write a report at a sensitive level and then push it up the chain of command. It would become top secret. And he would never be able to find out like what, happened to the report. Then he would see it in the news later. It was just kind of funny how things get out of your hand and out of control like that. Yeah, see, it's a dark topic. It's a weird thing to talk about.
No, my best friend's brother is one of the guys in that documentary about Abu Ghraib, where he's the dude like punching a naked prisoner in the nuts. He's like rah, 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 yelling at him.
God.
I was like, oh, that's your brother.
That's
why
why
do you keep hanging out with that asshole?
It's like, let me say one other thing. My son's father was also at Abu Ghraib in 2003. Huh?
Ryan?
Yeah, Ryan Trummel. My son's father, Ryan Trummel, was in Abu Ghraib in 2003, and we had this garden gnome, and it sat on the windowsill of Ryan's barracks room. And, at the time, the gnome's name was Louis, but by the time he got back from Baghdad, it was Lucky Louie. Because Lucky Louie had shrapnel from mortars blow off his head.
Jeez.
Which was right next to Ryan Trummel's head.
So
my heart's beating out of my chest right now. It's just, it was a horrible mess. I hate war. It's barbaric. It's fucking nuts. And yeah, it is all to fund money to a couple people, which should have Americans' best interests at heart, unless they're just so... How can money be that... Okay, let's not even get into that. I don't even want to go.
We could be here for hours on that.
Here, on a lighter note, we're not going to go there. On a lighter note, I did have a whole bunch of linguist friends, and a friend of mine, Tracy Crane, she's actually a New Hampshire girl now. She was in the military with Ryan and I at the 202nd Military Intelligence Battalion in Fort Gordon, which is in Augusta, Georgia, where they have the Masters every year. She was in a long interrogation with somebody at Abu Ghraib. It was a bad terrorist, okay? And she said to him at the end, because people were watching through a two-way mirror.
Yeah.
Right? And she cued them to listen. You know what she said to that terrorist?
What?
I have good news and bad news for you. Which one would you like first?
And the guy says, good news, bad news. What does he say first?
She goes, well, you know what? You don't have a choice. I'm going to give you the bad news. What you did was very terrible. And it not only cost you ever seeing your family again, it cost American lives, and you're bad. You're going to jail for a long time, if not dying. The good news is I saved 30% or more of my car insurance by switching to Geico. And everybody lost their shit. And, it's a controversial joke. You laugh at it, but we can laugh at it. She said that everybody lost their shit because Tracy was dead serious. She's like, this guy was, and that's the worst thing you can say to a terrorist is that, if you guys ever, listen, if you're ever interrogating a terrorist, tell them they're never going to see their family again. It's what they hold the most important.
John Oliver did a great segment about how torture doesn't work. The thing that works the most is just trying to relate to them, telling them, hey, what can I do to help you? You help me, I help you.
We're lying to you, of course. We're not going to help you terrorists.
Yeah,
We're going to
never.
fucking fuck your fucking world up. But, you know,
So you
we're
were doing
moving on to-
counterintelligence.
So I was doing counterintelligence, and see how it kind of like takes me to a dark place. I'm not a dark person. I don't know where else it's coming from. I got out of counterintelligence. I thought it was a bit intense, and Ryan and I ended
So what
up...
are you mostly doing during counterintelligence? What is
What
like,
I'm doing
for
right
me,
now,
it's
what we're doing, talking.
just talking
And writing like long, extensive reports.
about, like, is it wiretapping? Is it interviews? Because I don't know. My only understanding of counterintelligence is World War II, wind talkers, like code breaking and all that kind of stuff.
All right,
like
let me break it down.
Alan Turing and that kind of stuff.
Okay. Some people thought it ironic because Ryan, we've established my son's father, he was an interrogator and I was counterintelligence. So what is happening is, in the intel world, I mean, in the rules, in the battlefield, right? Especially in the Middle East, the best intelligence officers in the entire world are the Israelis. Think about how they won the 6-Day War. Think about how they survive on a daily basis surrounded by enemies. It's called intel. And nobody has better intel than those guys out there. I had a friend from Pakistan who went to go visit. He was home for 2 days, and the mailman knew he was there. These guys gossip. That's intel, all right?
Okay.
So what we're trying to do as a counterintelligence agent is go into the community and liaison with the mayor, liaison with, every official you can think of. We also have an office that people can walk into where we make them feel very comfortable and then ask them questions. And sometimes they say, well, I've got to report something. Because I played role playing. So they would, here's a situation. You come, terrorist, not terrorist, but like, somebody living in that community comes into my office and I'm very worried about my family and there's a weapons cache. I know where it is. And you just need to get it the hell out of our neighborhood because we're sick of these fucking terrorists too.
Yeah.
But they don't say it in those words. So I asked them, where's the weapons cache? Give me the grid coordinates. Inside the weapons cache, if you've seen the weapons cache, who knows about the weapons cache? You pretty much ask the who, what, where, when, and why, and then each who, what, where, when, and why has subcategories, and you write it all down in a big fucking report. So counterintelligence is trying to keep them from getting intelligence on us.
Okay.
Interrogation is trying to extract intelligence. I don't know how to explain this.
Extract information from them.
Yeah, but I'm also, as a counterintelligence, trying to extract information from them. But all in all, is we're trying to save Americans' lives and not let in public affairs we have minimum disclosure, maximum delay. So don't fucking talk about it, and for as long as you possibly can, and then conversely, there's minimum disclosure, maximum delay. It's all how you release information. And in terms of saving Americans' lives, they don't really need any intel on us. Wind talkers, what you know of, was fucking genius. God damn it, genius.
Well, are you doing it as a military personnel, or do they think you're somebody else? Do they know?
No.
Like, it's not undercover work,
No,
clearly.
it's not undercover work. Actually, they advised against that. I thought it was a smart ass. I've always been, surprised. But we were in intel school, and I raised my hand, and they're like role playing, so I definitely raised my hand. And then they're like, okay, so we're going to interrogate you, Diane. And they're like, okay, yes, what is your name? My name is Molly Ringwald. Oh, okay, Molly, where'd you go to school? Or what do you do for a living? And then I was like, well, I'm a doctor. And I graduated, from Harvard and then went into chemical engineering at MIT. And I got my ass handed to me. They're like, don't you ever fucking lie like that. Like, lie to say, yeah, sure, everything's going to be fine if you give me the information. We'll get you back home to your family. No, they're probably never going to see their families again because they're fucking terrorists. You know what I mean?
But don't ever lie to the people.
Yeah,
about
don't lie
who
about who you are because they can fact checks you. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, you went to MIT? What year? Really? Who's your admissions counselor? Did you know so-and-so? Oh, no, he died years ago. You know what I mean? Like, shit like that. So, I guess, like, Everybody lies, but lying across the board is probably pretty shitty. Oh, what wicked webs we weave when first we try to deceive. So, anyways, I fucking got out of it.
You don't want to betray their trust, the person who's giving you information.
No, but no, because it's not really on a trust as needed basis. There's this goes two ways. If you're coming into my office and you're divulging information to me, there's not really much trust that, you know what I mean? You're trusting me, and I'm trusting you and my security guards outside that you don't have a bomb on you, and you know what I mean? So like, it's not a fucking matter of trust, it's a matter of me getting all this information from you. It's informants. It happens every day, even here in America. Informants, I would collect that. The other part of my job was, which I always thought was cool, was the and of course it was not available to women, which is another contention we'll talk about later on as my career progresses. But I was always, if I were going to South Korea, that they would use me in intelligence meetings, but I would just be dressed up because I was a blonde bombshell when I was a kid. And that since I am like hyper observant and stuff, and like I would be a fly on the wall taking notes and smiling and being the mouthpiece and talking and saying, so that's a woman's role.
Yeah, you're the eyes,
God
or
damn,
you're there for their eyes.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't mind doing that. You know what I mean? Especially if it's saving Americans' lives. Fuck yeah, I'll be a snitch in a North Korean meeting. Yeah, you know what I mean? As long as I can get the fuck out of North Korea as soon as possible. I would never go to North Korea. Okay, this is all figure. What am I saying?
So, counterintelligence. You were in that. You were describing the job. Now.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the thing is that we had a budget. This is not classified. And none of this information I'm telling you is classified because it's all, you could look it up anywhere in that WikiLeaks and stuff. But we would have a budget to liaisoning with the chief of the police station, because we always want to be in touch with them so we can coordinate intel to locate weapons caches and people of suspicious behavior and so on and so forth, which in fucking Baghdad. There's bombs going off everywhere. Like, who the fuck knows? Mm-hmm. Anyways, but we would be able to buy them gifts. So, like,
bribery almost.
American cigarettes, yeah. But, like, now that I'm in show business, kind of like, we do the same thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, you just bribed me with cookies, which was the right thing to do.
I brought cookies and Diet Coke. I mean,
cookies
gifts
was the
are
right
nice.
thing.
Gifts are nice.
Yeah, cookies are well. When I was in college, I used to have to help all the lower. I didn't have to. A lot of the students who were behind me would come to me to help their radio projects and their TV projects, and they were always like, "How can I repay you?" I'm like, just I'm not. This is not what I do. And back then, they're like, "Oh, here." They would come back in the next day. He's like, "Oh, here, I know you smoke. Here's a pack of cigarettes." I'm like, "Oh yeah, cigarettes work then." Now that I've stopped smoking,
we need to talk about
cookies.
That. We need to talk about that later. I don't want to talk about it right now because it'll just irritate me and make me want to go smoke cigarettes. So just drop it. Yeah, I brought him cookies. The chewy Chips Ahoy.
Yes, I'm holding off not eating them in front of the microphone.
I was at like a halal beef rush. I know. I'm bringing food. It was a halal little place. So I'm like, I don't know. We can get some really weird ethnic food, bring it over, which would make me weirder because I don't know how to cook this. Not that ethnicity is weird. Is it still considered racist if it's ethnocentric? And I meant it as a compliment.
The intent is not racist.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So basically, like,
so you're bribing
bribing
officials.
public officials with booze and probably prostitutes. What we weren't allowed to do was take money and gifts from them.
Of course.
Because like they have boat tons of it. It is like feast or fucking famine in those countries. Because of the oil, there's like, if you're a Kuwaiti citizen, for example, you get distributed like fucking $10 billion a year just to be a citizen. Similarly, like you're going to find that in Alaska. Like it's kind of like a COLA, like a cost of living allowance. Or no, better example, like Seminole Indians. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So Kuwaitis and Syrians and a lot of these Middle Eastern countries are so fucking oil rich that they distribute the wealth between the natural born citizens.
Oh.
Yeah, so like there you'll see a big, vast, extreme. Like for instance, you see these roads, and they're the oldest civilization in the world. Yet there's no real grid system, and it still seems like you're in the middle of fucking nowhere. But you'll see a goddamn Maserati come down the road, and then the Maserati loses a tire. They're so fucking rich, they get out of the car and they like hail a camel. Go back to wherever and buy a new car, I guess. I know that polygamy is also legal in the Middle Eastern culture. And don't quote me on any of this, but you have to, if you say you have 7 wives, each wife has to be treated the exact same way. They don't have to live together like they do in Iowa or, where else? Where's a
Brigham Young.
Brigham Young.
That's in Colorado?
Somewhere.
No, Utah. Sorry.
No, polygamy like they do in LA. Well, anyways, so each wife has to have if one drives a Maserati, the other one gets like a Maserati or something equal to. So it's just like expensive, but you can have like as many wives as you want, I guess. The Middle Eastern culture always really fascinated me, but and a lot of people would not a lot of people because I don't really get into it, but I don't really dive too much into politics nowadays because I don't see a lot changing from what is, when I did watch it, and it just drives me nuts. And I refuse, Kirsten Science Journal, which is supposed to be one of the most unbiased publications, still pisses me off. I'm sick of right and left fucking opinions. I just want all those old people in Congress to not necessarily die, but move on with their lives, give away, you know what I mean, and let these just new, because I am a conservative Republican, but I have the most progressive, liberal views and agendas.
Compared to most of them, it's not hard to be considered liberal against them. But were you stationed in the Middle East?
No, never. I had one opportunity in the beginning to go to a green zone called Qatar. It's in the United Arab Emirates.
Yes.
But I don't know, I was 20 years old, and it was the first time I'd ever had a real boyfriend. So Ryan, my son's father. And Ryan was we were traveling every weekend together and having so much fun. And I'm like, fuck Qatar. Because it was like, they were like, well, do you want to go? And I'm like, kind of. And the more research I did on it, I'm like, so it's totally a green zone and yada, yada, yada. Oh, yeah. So, but I stayed with Ryan, and we, the rest is history.
In Qatar?
No, I did not go to Qatar, but I did go with my boyfriend, Ryan, and we ended up having a baby together. The girl who did go to Qatar. Austin, yes. The girl who did go to Qatar kind of comes full circle. We were allowed to give them gifts. We weren't allowed to accept gifts from them. But the girl who took my place and went to Qatar took so many gifts from the locals. She came back with diamond bracelets and, the whole 9 yards. She was like the Arab little.
So CI was going to send you to Qatar.
Yeah.
But you didn't go.
No.
Where were you doing all your CI work? Here in the States?
Yeah, and here in the States, well, that's a really good question. None of this, I'd love to tell you about this. This is another reason why it fucking irritated me and I had to get the hell out. Have you guys ever heard of the good old Patriot Act? Do you remember that one?
Of course.
What is it in terms of your memory? What do you remember about it?
It was an executive order from the president that basically gave CIA and NSA too much rights to checking in on your privacy and wiretapping. It gave them less opportunity, or there was less red tape in setting up wiretaps and spying on people and all that shit. So I can't say exactly, but obviously.
No,
I know what
I mean.
I know the immoralness behind it.
No, I'm so glad you answered that question and you know what you're talking about, because I thought I'm not calling you an idiot, but sometimes it's important that people know what the Patriot Act is because it's.
Well, I'm very ignorant of most of what goes on in politics.
I know, but these are the things.
I did just watch Enemy of the State recently, so I'm kind of
Enemy. I just wrote a paper about Enemy of the State. No, but it's important to remember these policies that are set in place prior administrations. You know what I mean? A lot of people gave Barack Obama a lot of hell for, the infringement on our privacies that was set in place by George W. Bush, 5-6 years before him, And we worked in a town where this this was being tested on the locals. You know
Just
what I mean? Yeah, like when we were not deployed, we were studying and training intelligence gathering techniques
on American soil.
On American soil.
So you guys were stationed in a city to test methods of extracting information from locals.
Yeah, but we would do them field training exercise environments, and the locals would be paid actors. And then there was like one stupid fucking assignment. I'm not going to get shot for this because, hell, I'm crazy. I could be lying. But they gave us, and I'll teach you this game, everybody. It's called the elicitation game. It's a good bar game to pick up. But elicitating mean gathering information surreptitiously, meaning without somebody exactly knowing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's called the elicitation game, and I remember that one of our projects were to go to the mall and, find out things, challenge each other, like go into the jewelry shop and find out when the jewelry shop, had her first date or what the name of her dog was. But here's the point of the elicitation game.
Instead of going and say, hey, what's the name of your dog? You want to go in there, was like, I'm looking for a new charm bracelet, and it's for my boyfriend, or it's whatever it's for. And hey, do you happen to have one on a dog? Because I love dogs, and then hope that she would divulge that information.
How do you know that?
I'm a smart guy.
You're smart. You're very smart, which also goes back to like we're all.
I also know what the word surreptitious and elicitation means.
So I gave you good context. But no, it's important for everybody to know out there that we're all natural born intelligence gatherers. We do it, anyways. But back to what you were saying. Ding, ding, ding. You're exactly fucking right. But the other part of the elicitation game is you're going to have to think of it as an hourglass, right? Like you did, like you just described. You open up the conversation broad. What's in the middle of the hourglass is the piece of information you need. What's at the bottom of the hourglass is all the conversation you then develop to confuse her for remembering the middle of the hourglass question. Point is, you leave, I come in, talk to her and say, that guy's kind of on our watch list and we just need to know what he was talking to you about. And if she goes, I don't know, he was just talking about how he loves watches. Or if she says, you want to know about my dog, then you lose the game. Okay. But if she forgets, so like the hourglass is open up broad, go in tiny, find out what you need to know, and then open up broad again and leave them confused. It's the art of confusion. Did you ever read The Art of War?
No, I've never read The Art of War.
You got to read it.
I've read one book all the way through my entire life.
Fuck you, anybody who says I'm a douche for reading The Art of War.
My roommate who was in the Army, my old roommate back in Baltimore, where I'm from, he was in the Army, and he's very liberal, but he would watch Fox News all the time, and I'm like, why are you watching this? You don't agree with any, it drives you crazy, because I just want to keep up on what the enemy's doing. Like, you have to know what they're doing every once in a while.
If you want to know what the enemy's doing, like, study the past. No, that's why, I don't know. That's why I don't know what the enemy's doing right now. I just know that I have faith in, like, the Israeli soldiers and their intelligence. We need more support. We need a lot of stuff. And it's, this gives me so much fucking anxiety with, like, I was that kid in the 6th grade, so concerned about global affairs. Like, as soon as I figured out, what the hell was going on, and because I'm getting an ulcer right now thinking about it, I had to let it go. So I left Intel. And Ryan and I had a child, and we traveled like all around the country this magical summer, and we really did have a beautiful relationship. But then a couple years later we divorced, so to speak, and I went back into the military because it was all I knew, and it was the middle of the recession. So it was 2008, and I couldn't get a job at a Starbucks. So I went back in, which was the smartest thing I'd ever done. And this time, a little bit more on a lighter note, I did broadcast journalism and public affairs. Okay.
No, see, that's the reason you asked me, why do I know what the elicitation game is and all that stuff. The reason I know that is because it's what I learned as the techniques of good interviewing. Like, I hate when I watch something like The View. It's usually the one that drives me the crazies. Like, I'll be at the gym, I'll be on the treadmill or bike or whatever, and I'll be looking up and the view's in front of me, or one of those morning talk shows, whatever, and it's the worst interview question where somebody goes, "Now, I hear that you know karate. Why don't you tell us about that?" That's not a question. That's a request. And that's what drives me crazy in interviews is when somebody requests somebody to start talking about something instead of naturally bringing up into conversation. And understandably, a lot of these things are quick and you have to just get to the sound bites. So for me, as a journalist, like if I wanted to talk about, like you said, you have a kid. If I wanted you to open up about your kid, I would start talking about kids. So you can relate to it.
Manipulator.
Right? That's how I would want you to talk about kids if we were talking about that.
This guy's not like you aren't an amateur, are you?
No. Why does so many people get surprised that I'm good at my job?
I don't know. I've
worked in radio for 18 years, 13 years, 22. What am I? 36, 14. This fall will be 14 years with the same company. I've been doing radio since I was 18 years old.
You're
probably
so
longer
funny.
than that. Yeah. Like, I know how to do interviews. The guy who wrote, and I always forget his name, and it's the quote's on my website, deadairdennis.com, Jay something or other, who wrote one of the Walking Dead novels. Okay. The TV show, he wrote a novel, and I was at a comic convention, and we're doing an interview with him, and I'm by myself, and I have the camera and the mic, and I'm doing all this stuff, and I get on, and I set the camera up, and I turn... and I walk up there and goes, "You don't need a camera?" And I was like, "No." He goes, "Well, do you need to set it up?" And I just flipped the thing up. I was like, "That's perfectly framed. You didn't even look at it." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." So we're doing the interview. I'm asking him a question. Then I ask him a question. And he just stops and goes, "That's a really good question. You really know what you're doing." I'm like, "Yeah, dude. Why do you think I'm interviewing you?" And some people, it always amazes me when people get surprised that I know what I'm doing.
I guess I'm just surprised because, like...
Well, in this day and age of podcasting...
Well, I don't know you from Adam, and I just met you at Porch Fest. So, like... But I'm thoroughly impressed.
That I have a professional sounding and looking studio.
It's the professional sounding looking studio. It's the active listening, the keeping me on track, and you knowing what the fuck you're talking about. And I'm throwing some pretty wild, like, I'm not even wild. They might not even be complex things, but.
You hear that program director from a radio station that might be listening to this as an air check? Hire me. I'm good at what I'm doing.
No, like you could interview, like, wow, we can talk. I've done everything from flight attendant to fishwife to fishmonger to working in Alaska to working at a nonprofit finding people jobs, specifically to working for the Veterans Benefit Administration, which I'm actually opening up my own business because I have a grant, and they're sending me to the New England School of Photography to get certified, and I'm opening up a small, follow me, this is not a big secret, but I'm opening up a small restaurant called Little Shop of Hors d'oeuvres. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, God. I'm just kidding. No, but I am opening up a photography studio, and I will, with the intent of evolving it into a multimedia branch, and because as soon as I open up the photography studio and I'm in business for 2 years, I can contract to the government. Because they have a $12 billion pie specifically designated to service disabled military veterans, and I am medically retired. So after doing the math and looking at their fiscal budgets for the past 3 or 4 years, ever since I've been mulling this over my head, about $4.5 billion never gets used, but fiscally it shows up again the next year. All this business is dedicated to new small businesses
for disabled veterans.
Yeah.
So it's money is so the money you're setting up a photography studio to help.
I'm setting up a photography studio to get into business so I can be in business for 2 years. while I'm opening up the photography studio, it will evolve into a multimedia branch where I start producing Fallon's Daily Toast, where I start producing other people doing, emulating almost Channel 3, but not really emulating
What's
a
Channel
business.
3?
It's a place, it's a studio, but I'm emulating a business model that I worked on in Fort Rucker, Alabama. And it was, they do like video production needs, and they do this and this and this and that. And long story short, getting into government contracts and this fucking money that's out there that nobody's using.
So you're starting the business from a grant from the military that is for disabled veterans.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a little tough following you on that one.
What I'm getting at is I'm going to eventually be offering you a job.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But enough about stroking my own ego. Let's talk about this. So you go back into the Army to do broadcast journalism.
I go back into the Army to do broadcast journalism in 2009.
2009?
No, 2008.
So you're in your mid-20s.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 2008. I'm 24.
Yeah.
20.
Is it a re-enlistment?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you get out the first time?
Pregnancy.
You get discharged from the military for pregnancy?
I got knocked up in Kiowa Island. I mean, I hate to say knocked up, but remember when I said I didn't go to
Qatar.
Qatar.
Qatar, however that's supposed to be pronounced.
It's Qatar.
Qatar, okay.
It's in the United Arab Emirates, blah, blah, blah. Well, Ryan and I had one of these, let me tell you about my best friend. Da, 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 da. You know, like just great relationship. You know,
you guys met in the Army?
We met in the Army. He said, I don't want to get into it. I'm into the All-American sweet boy. And, he, you know, all these years later, he's still that All-American sweet boy.
Blonde hair, blue eye type?
Yeah. But very reserved, believe it or not. I do my best with introverted men if I don't scare the hell out of them.
So you guys meet?
Yeah, we meet.
Yeah.
I give up
boy
guitar,
meets girl.
Boy meets girl.
They have another. They have their own.
Yeah,
start
but we
their
have
own family.
Yeah.
So you get out, and then you're just a military wife at this point.
No, actually, because it coincided with him ETSing.
Which is, I don't know.
Expired term of service.
Okay, so he did his 4 years, 8 years,
Right.
whatever it is. Okay.
So I get in November 17th, 2004. I get pregnant, which is a great story. We don't have time for it. And get out June 2006, June 20th, 2006. And it just coincided with when he got out. We went traveling. We went camping. We did a lot of camping when I was 9 months pregnant. I was in love with him. But anyways, I ended up going back into broadcast journalism, which was amazing because I had always... watching Ziegfeld Follies or Dean Martin in A White Christmas, I've always wanted to be a producer of some sort or be in show business and the whole nine yards. Like, you know what it's like. You're doing it right now. Yeah. And I hope you like me. It sparked when you were a kid. You know, something in you possessed you to fucking want to entertain the world.
Yeah. It's that, hey, look at me gene.
It goes so much more than that.
Well, I enjoy the producing side of things too. Like, I enjoy working behind the mic as much as I do in the front. Some people don't, and I do both. I think I do both well. I probably do behind the mic stuff better.
Are you an Aries?
No, Taurus.
You're Taurus, but either way, like
you're lucky. I know what my zodiac sign is. This could have been this. I'm lucky. I don't even know when Aries is.
Diving into a shell bomb, we'll drop it there. It's just kind of like having your cake and eating it too kind of person. I enjoy producing because. I want to be in control of the casting. I want to be in control of the locations, and I want to be in control of, so much. But then again, like, I actually haven't even been featured in any of the productions I've produced. So I do love being in front of the camera, though. I should show you some work sometime. Broadcast
So you're getting
journalism.
into that. So basically, you've now become Joker from Full Metal Jacket.
Which one's that?
Have you ever seen that movie?
It's been a long time.
Oh, Joker is Matthew Modine. He's the journalist.
Journalist,
Yes.
yeah. So I've become. Well, actually, my friend Justin Morelli, who I'm going to make listen to this, he's a Bostonian, and he got in a fight for me once at Camden Yards because somebody disrespected me, and like Bostonians do not like girls or women getting disrespected for some reason.
Okay.
Well, he was always telling me when I would disrespect myself, he'd be like, "Diane, you're so much better than that." You know what I mean? He was an upstanding guy. So, tongue in cheek.
Sounds like a mensch.
Yeah, a good mensch. Yeah. He's an Italian mensch. I mean, anybody can be a mensch. But bada bing, bada boom. Real stand-up guy. He was a combat cameraman. I was a broadcast journalist, which they taught me how to run a radio show, which I'll be hopefully doing Boston Public Free Radio. We'll get into that later. But that's my next thing is a radio show because I love to talk, obviously. But,
Yeah, clearly.
So, they we can go on and on about DINFOS or the Defense Information School. It's situated in Fort Meade, Maryland, which I call the epicenter of awesomeness in between D.C., Annapolis, and Baltimore.
Yeah, it's right outside of Columbia.
Right outside of Columbia.
Yeah, you're 45 minutes from Baltimore, 45 minutes from D.C.
Speaking of Morelli, you know where he took me? These, because it's a very hands-on, like, outside in the field work. And Justin Morelli found this fucking abandoned insane asylum. Well, we all said it was an insane asylum. But it was like an old hospital. It was very dangerous to go into. Like, you had to...
Where?
It was right outside the gates of Fort Meade, Maryland.
Okay.
Outside the NSA gate.
Oh, just outside of Greenbelt, Maryland.
Yeah, Greenbelt, Maryland. And there's
it's going to drive me crazy until I remember the name of it, but I know. I've
are
never
you
been there, but I
familiar?
know of it.
You know the
I'm
hospital?
from Baltimore. And
You're
I worked
from Baltimore?
I'm from Baltimore.
Camden Yards, Section 86. Yeah. I thought they're my favorite. I was there when Wieters hit his first home run, dude. I've been to over 72 ball games at Camden Yards.
Okay. Yeah, you said that he got into a fight with a guy at Camden Yards, and I was going to because I know about the Yard. Because
Joe, if you're listening,
I know about Memorial Stadium. I went to games at Memorial.
Why are we talking about boring work?
Anyway, but because this is about,
I know. And you just go on.
What do you really do? But anyway, so I'm from Baltimore.
Yeah,
I worked in Montgomery County. But
so
anyway, so you go to this.
We go to this
abandoned hospital,
and it was just interesting. It was just kind of like, no pun intended, my first exposure to how much fun you can with documenting history.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There was the abandoned, overgrown moss and the ivy and broken floor panels. It was so dangerous, but we'd go in there and photograph it. And then like the really creepy children's playground. A broken swing, and then like somebody fucking had to have thrown a dead doll baby in there with red eyes just to fucking scare everybody else. But yeah, so
it didn't magically appear on its own. Somebody had to put it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's your first taste of documenting and doing story work and stuff like that.
That's, I mean, if anybody friending me on Facebook and then I noticed you did that today. Thank you.
Yeah. It's part of my research.
I document history. I document fucking history, and it's me being bored using my dope, ADD camera and taking self-photography with a lot of makeup on, by the way, and a lot of light. It's not me, well, it is because I don't identify with looking like, with hair and makeup on, but it's not just that. It goes to, Ricky's Farmer's Market, Buddies, this I'm going to document your laboratory that you have here, like documenting everything. I'll go Facebook Live. Everybody needs to document everything about history because we need to remember it. You know what I mean? People need to know where we've come from. Think of the Dark Ages. You know what I mean? Everything needs to be archived. Besides, like, maybe I don't feel like making bad jokes right now. There's some things that probably
I never want to make bad jokes. Just sometimes my jokes are bad.
Like, do you remember that movie Running with Scissors?
No.
Running with Scissors? It was so weird. Diane Bennett. No, who was the mom and played in American Beauty?
American Beauty.
Annette Bening.
Was it Annette Bening?
Annette Bening. It's Truman Capote's. Okay. I think it's Truman Capote's story.
Okay.
You got to see it. I was into very dark films. I don't know I'm bringing that up, so we can move on. But yeah, broadcast journalism.
So you're in there, and then you got discharged medically. Is that what the scar on your arm's from?
No, the scar on my arm's from when I got pregnant. Well, okay, real quick.
Did you have a bad doctor who thinks the babies come out through the arm?
Yeah. No, that's not how everybody's baby were born. No, okay, just real quick story. Back in
Now I'm just showing off my observantness. That's all that was.
That's smart. I bet you're a good writer. In 2005, I had well, I'll tell you this. It's a good story. I'll tell it to you. Nobody judge me. But okay, so anyways, Ryan, I said no to Qatar. Ryan and I got together. We had a lot in common in terms of we were very, very free spirits and traveled. And we both liked marijuana. And like when you find another pothead in the military, and even though you can't smoke it, you get a kingship, you know. Ryan introduced me to rock and roll. Before that, it was just like big band music for me. So Ryan was sweet, and Ryan is, you know, one of those human beings that, how did you not get tainted by the world? Why do I live with a callous chip and you can see it? What's wrong with you? You know, he's also the type of man, when he found out his mother's a multi-billionaire, that he didn't flinch. You know what I mean? He's also the type of man that watched me get a C-section and they took my stomach and placed it on my guts, and he didn't move. So he has this poker face. In any event, he's a calculated, horrible human being for what he's done to me in the past. And at the very same time, he's the most caring, compassionate, loving, most sound, smartest, most perfect man ever. So in any event, why wouldn't I get into a relationship with him? But we went to Kiowa Island, which is off the coast of South Carolina, and where you can rent bikes. They're not even the bikes are just spread all across the island. And there's these huge homes, and it's a private island. And, you know, with a military discount off season, you can get, you know, great stuff. And so I remember, and, you know, I'm not at all by any means a frou-frou here, and I'm not bringing, you know, any existentialism into this. But God damn it, be specific with the universe when you ask it for something, because sometimes it fucking listens. Because I said to myself this day, we were in Kiowa Island and we're on the beach, and, you know, it's just a storm was rolling in, yet there was still sunlight peeking through the sunset. And I said to myself, I want to be with this man for the rest of my life. Somehow. I want to, you know, be with this man. I just know that. He was my first boyfriend, the first man ever told me he loved me. You know, it was great. So, long story short, that was the weekend I got pregnant.
Okay.
And I was pregnant. I took a pregnancy test, and don't buy the cheap pregnancy test. Don't do it. False alarm. Well, so I thought I was not pregnant, which I totally, you know, we won't get on all that, but, wasn't pregnant, didn't tell Ryan.
So you were on the island on the vacation and
on an island on a vacation, I got pregnant.
You checked that's when you found out you were pregnant.
No.
That's when you guys conceived. Okay.
Yeah, that's when we conceived. I'm just throwing that out there to save the big reveal. You'll find out how I found out I was pregnant here in a minute. So the holidays rolled around. He took me home to Thanksgiving to meet his family. I was pregnant at the time. Nobody knew that. His family is very.
Did you know it?
Yeah.
At the time?
No.
So you didn't know it either yet?
No,
okay.
I'm not very like I'm healthy as a fucking ox.
But the pregnancy, the cheap pregnancy test you took said negative. Even though it was wrong.
Yeah. So whatever.
Okay. So you're there at the house.
I'm out of the house.
Family's house.
Family's house.
For Thanksgiving.
And the week before I got to his family's house, Ryan and I were in his bedroom, and it was like 3:00 in the morning. I left a candle on, so I went and blew it out. But I stuck my whole face in the candle and blew it out, so all the wax came and melted my face.
Ah.
So I had no eyebrows and no eyelashes. I'm meeting my future in-laws for the first time, who are wasps. I mean, they're of the elitist of the elite you can get in the Chicago area. Their families and friends run banks. It's nuts. That's why I never felt comfortable in Chicago. Anyways, I love them. Clearly. So, okay, another month passes by and, roll around Christmas time. Ryan, being the good son that he is, goes home to Crystal Lake, Illinois for the holidays. And me being the badass little punk, found some pot on Kiowa Island and I smoked the ganja. What was the long and short of all this?
So you were at Ryan's family's house for Thanksgiving. You didn't know you were pregnant.
Yeah, and I'm meeting like Mr. and Mrs. super classy social wasps with no eyelashes and no makeup on. But they're such down to earth people that like it didn't matter. That's a preconceived notion, a blinder that builds walls. Some guy in the Keys taught me that one. So that's kind of where, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that, I wasn't born into a high society family, and it made me very nervous for a long time, but that's what I was dealing with, and that just the pressures of all that. So anyways, what happened was I got caught smoking pot because I made a stupid joke to my commander about this nun who was like, told the Pope that, "You laid back motherfucker," because the Pope was smoking weed in this joke. All right, I was right. It did not land. This was a piece of spaghetti joke that did not fucking stick on the wall. And I told it to the wrong outgoing commander, and he gave me a drug test that night, and I popped. I'll never tell anybody that who else I smoked with. That'll be a secret to my grave. So I took it like a fucking champion.
Okay, you're not a stoolie. Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and plus I was pregnant at the time, so, nothing was going to fucking happen to that kid. But anyways, I didn't know I was pregnant, and we had tons of woods to play on Fort Gordon, and we found this lake that we would go to, and my girlfriend at the time had this Ford Escort with a trunk of contingencies, as she would call it, with golf balls, lighter fluid, medieval swords and hats and the whole 9 yards. And we all drank a lot, man. I know everybody drinks a lot, but 18, 19-year-old kids dealing with, going to war every 3 months.
Yeah.
Like, we were raging fucking alcoholics.
So you're out in the woods.
Binge drinking.
In Chicago. Visiting...
No. We're not in Chicago right now. We're in,
South Carolina. Okay.
Yeah, close.
The coast of South Carolina, whatever that island was.
So yes. Fort Gordon, Georgia. But I brought the weed back, right? And it... Okay, sorry. Brought the weed. This is all going to make sense. Brought the weed from South Carolina to Fort Gordon, Georgia for a Christmas break treat.
Okay.
For some of my other bad kids in the military that were smoking pot at that time.
Okay.
Simultaneously, Ryan was not hanging out with us at this pot-fueled party in the middle of the woods. He was in Illinois with his family in Crystal Lake celebrating the Christmas holiday.
Okay. So you visited them for Thanksgiving, went back to Georgia. He stayed. Gotcha.
Thank
Continue.
you.
Go.
Okay. So basically... It's really hard for me.
You're drunk and stoned in the woods.
And we're drunk and stoned in the woods. Like, I'm a really good with golf balls and stuff, so we're wacky. But then eventually we get bored, and we did like a waterfall with liquor bottles. There's 15 of us. And then so we get bored, and, hide and go seek's always a fun game. And my friend Corey escalates it by grabbing one of our Louisville Sluggers, an old white T-shirt, and then the lighter fluid for the bonfire.
And uses it makes a torch. Okay.
Makes a torch. Yeah, I love you. I think I want to be your friend after this. I hope we get to talk again. You're just cool because that's the name of the game. Mm-hmm. It was Catch the Man with the Torch. This was going to end badly. Somebody was going to get hurt.
So were you carrying the torch, or were you chasing after somebody?
Yeah, that's the thing. One person had the torch. 8 of us were chasing after her. Corey decided to sacrifice herself first to hold the torch, right? Mm-hmm. So we shut off the ignition to the car, and it was pitch black with
just the torch.
Just the torch, so we can't see anything. And we're all 3 sheets to the wind, what have you. And, this was my first rodeo. So I wanted to, make sure that I fucking did this with precision. I do a lot of dumb shit with precision. But like, so I took my shoes off, and she counts to 10, and it's like hide and go seek, and I take my other shoe off, and I see her in my sights, and God damn it, that torch is mine. So I break off at a sprint, and mind you, I was working out a lot back then. I could sprint, and I was like, you're drunk, so you think you can run a little faster.
In the woods, in the dark.
In the woods, in the dark, and she can't hear me because I'm barefoot now. Well, anyways, I run right into the only concrete picnic table in the entire wooded area. I mean, it was juxtaposed against an awning, a wooden awning where people gather, and, a normal place for people to gather. And then, juxtaposed against that, 15, 20 feet away is this one lone
table.
Concrete table.
Jesus. And you ran right into it?
Right.
Did you break the arm?
Oh, yeah. This is
compound fracture?
Yeah.
So that's what the scar's from. Okay.
So then, like, all my friends were underage. Nobody would take me to the hospital. I'm like, look, fuck you guys. I'm in shock. I'm not crying. Take me to the hospital. I get to the hospital, and my best friend Corey was with me at the time, and this guy named Tohi Tabesh, an Iranian, who, if we're expats, he's an
expat. He's an expat. For an Iranian expat.
Okay, so he's an Iranian expat. And he was batshit insane, but love him to death. We can talk about him later. He was the guy I told you wrote the classified reports, sent it up, and it became unclassified.
Okay.
He was also a part of the task force that took out, and I'm not making this up, he was a part of the task force that took out fucking Osama bin Laden.
Oh, part of SEAL Team 6.
Yeah. Oh. Because he was working because he was a linguist, because obviously he's from Tehran originally. And then he started intel as soon as he got his clearance. And then he was a part of that task force. I mean, wow. I saw pictures of Osama bin Laden in that spider hole, probably 3 weeks before it was released.
Jesus.
I know. So it's been a crazy...
So he takes you to the hospital?
He takes me to the hospital, and they're funny, because he has the best sense of humor, and they're both making me laugh. And, I'm laying in the bed, and we finally, get through the emergency room, and I'm always like a cocksucker to these people. It's not that I don't have any respect for doctors. It's just that I think they get way too much respect sometimes. At the same time, we need them, right?
Yeah.
Just as much.
We need them, but also at the same time, stop telling us that you need us, that we need you. Stop telling us that we need you. We get it. Yeah.
We also
stop being smarmy. But anyway.
You get it.
Yeah. Is that where you found out you were pregnant?
Yeah, I was just laying in the hospital bed, and they come in. They're like, okay, we're going to have to take some tests on your arm, and it's going to be with the x-rays and this and that. Any chance you're pregnant? I say with confidence, you know what I mean? No, it's the 4th time I've ever had sex, and we used a condom, and I just took a pregnancy test the other day. No way I'm pregnant. They leave. They come back 10 minutes later. Miss Barron, I'm laying in there. My arm's now starting to get annoying because they wouldn't give me any drugs without finding if I were pregnant first. And boy, was I looking forward to fucking drugs. If I could be any kind of drug addict, I would be a heroin addict for sure. In my 90s. I'll try it. When I'm in my 90s, I'll try it.
It's got to be really good if people are still doing it.
Ew, it's so gross. You see them in Manhattan, though, what these people do. Don't do fucking heroin, kids. This shit's nasty.
I'm from Baltimore. We've seen them. They do the heroin Tai Chi
where they get
lean.
Yeah.
They lean.
How does it happen?
They're weebles. They wobble, but they won't fall over.
What is that?
I don't know. It's somehow doing heroin magnetizes your feet.
You look, the point of falling over, for all intents and purposes, gravity, Newton's law, everything, they defy it.
Yeah. If you want to be apparently a really good yogi, do heroin. That's apparently how it happens. So anyway.
That's okay.
So that's when you found out you were pregnant.
And they came in. I was like,
8 months later, you're discharged from the army.
Yeah, but listen to what a class act I am. So Ryan's at home, and listen to what a class act Ryan is. Ryan's at home in Illinois. It's now Christmas Eve, right? And I do get, apparently you can have codeine when you're pregnant. You know what I mean? I didn't ask them to give me an instant, I'm not going to be rude in this podcast. So, anyways, so I every 5 minutes, as much as they would let you, the codeine drip, I loved it. So I called Ryan, and I'm like, hey, Ryan, I'm in the hospital, and I broke my arm. He left. I didn't tell him I was knocked up. Because I have, I'm not Grace Kelly, and sometimes I'm crass, and but I've got this part of me that has manners and class. You know what I mean? And, just human decency. So this isn't a Jerry Springer show. I'm going to tell this man that I'm pregnant in person.
Yeah.
So
you
but I
leave
didn't.
Chicago.
So he left Chicago, just on the sole fact that I was his girlfriend. I broke my arm and I was home alone on this, fucking
Christmas break,
holiday.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is the first time I pissed my ex-mother-in-law.
But he leaves family, so he goes by. He comes to Georgia. You tell him.
He comes to my rescue, and first thing he does is takes me out to dinner. Then he had his own room in the barracks, and we get up there, and picture him, and I'm me, and I'm just nervous. I'm like, well, hey, shucks. Hey, Ryan, I broke my arm. He's like, I know, baby, I'm sorry. And I'm like, well, Ryan, there's something else here I got to tell you. And, well, you know what I'm talking about. And then he's like, no. I'm like, well, it's kind of obvious. And just see, the thing is, well, I don't know, Ryan, I'm pregnant.
Oh. How does he take the news?
He just leaned in and gave me a hug.
Oh, that's good.
And it embraced me.
For me, you would see a Dennis-shaped cloud and then a Dennis-shaped hole through the wall. That's how I would react.
That's how I reacted years later.
So
It
anyway.
was the sweetest thing. It's just, as much as I hate that man, I have so much compassion.
So you go. So you get discharged because of that. You guys
so
go
we
around
take
for
off.
years.
That was fun. That was
divorce.
fun. Yeah,
You go
so
back in the military.
Yeah, but
Broke
mind
out
you,
Stanley.
I just got caught for pot, and then I show up pregnant. The
So-
command loved me.
How did you get discharged the second time for a medical? That's what I wanted to know. That's how we got there.
That sucks. That's an even better story. Maybe on another podcast we can go into deeper details about it. Let's just say I got irrevocably sick. There's like 12% of the population, actually let's be honest, it's 6% of the US population comes down with this illness. Nobody knows where it comes from, and it comes from like whenever like you're 26 to like maybe 30, and if you don't get it between 26 and 30, you're never going to get it. It's kind of like, it's a mental health issue. And I'm just one of the lucky few that got it.
What's the name of it?
Why? So everybody can fucking judge me?
Why is that? How are they going to judge you for?
Well,
what's
because
the disease?
could you tell I was mentally ill before this, or did you just think I was talkative? No, I'm on some pretty fucking fabulous medications, which we can get into later. But it was a diagnosis of pretty scary case of post-traumatic stress disorder.
So you were released for PTSD
and postpartum depression.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Anyways, no, it's bipolar. and those other things. But it was interesting.
So were you section? I can cut this out if you want.
No, it
Were you
wasn't Section 8. No,
Okay.
it wasn't Section 8. Actually, if it were, it would be.
That's
unless I'm going to tell you right now, they should have given me a medical discharge. They didn't. Now I'm in litigation. Not even in litigation. We just wrote a letter and we're getting my discharge reclassified, and they are paying me for 6 years. And then the other way I got filthy fucking rich from being bipolar is that I was on a name brand manufactured drug. And I already told you less than 6% of the population gets this. And this manufacturer makes over $50 billion a year marketing to less than 6% of the population of that listen to this. Of that 6%, a smaller percent actually takes the manufacturer that's making over $50 billion. My medication a month is $1,100.
Jesus.
So, anyways, I was on this drug called Abilify. And long story
I've
short,
heard lawyer commercials.
yeah. Well, I don't
class
have
action lawsuit stuff for that stuff.
I don't have a television, and I don't have a computer, and I don't read the news since getting diagnosed. Like I'm very highly functional in all these things, but since getting diagnosed, it triggers me sometimes. You know what I mean? I don't have a fucking television. I don't fucking want that on all the time. It's not necessarily being bipolar. But, like, I hate advertisements, for example. So I dated this man who like was in the music industry. Never date anybody in the music industry if you love music. They will ruin it for you.
I second that.
They will ruin it for you. But what this dipshit did fucking do is I got back from a work trip to Manhattan. I was auditioning for the Actors Studio. And it was so I went for 15 days because I had to get away from my boyfriend. We were together for 6 months, and it's not what I signed up for originally. But anyways, this dipshit, I'll tell you what, when I got home from New York, he's like, Diane, you know how we think there's all these problems with your medications? And I'm like, yeah, I've been telling my doctors for 8 or 9 months that Abilify is just not working. I was on the brand name Abilify. And he goes, well, you know what, I'm sorry, but I'm going quid pro quo or, tit for tat with what this television saying and what's going on. I'm like, what are you saying here? Get clear. He's like, Diane, there's a class action lawsuit. So get this. Fuck it, I'll tell you guys. My best friend was like, don't tell anybody you have money until you're like engaged. You know what I mean? But listen to this. So this is what happens with the class action lawsuit. I have over 900 pages of evidence, like my medical evidence, triangulations of the erratic spending. And I don't want to get really boring or whatever, but my case is so solid that it wasn't, when I first signed up with the class action lawsuit, it wasn't supposed to go to litigation for 5 years. Let me change my tone of voice. When I signed up for this class action lawsuit, they were like, okay, thanks for signing up. And I'm like, hey, listen, if you guys are going to run up my statute of limitations, let me know, because I have an attorney in Manhattan that'll take over this case right now. They're like, we'll give you plenty of time to let you know, but we're not going to litigation for at least 5 years. So just fucking relax. And I'm like, okay. Then I start questioning, and they're like, we're proving it right now. And we are going to litigation with certain Floridians this June. And then so I kind of tell them, I'm like, hell, I just found this out from my dipshit boyfriend. As far as I'm concerned, I have a different 5-10-year plan. I told you about my government contract.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this has nothing to do with anything. But if you are doing something, I have to tell you that I think I have a very legitimate case. And they asked for evidence. So I sent them, like, in a week, 900 pages of, like, bank statements and, the fact that I was on the name manufactured brand and yada, 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 yada.
And so the class action suit for Abilify.
So wait, hold on. Yesterday I got a call saying that they're opening my case.
Oh, that's great.
I called my best friend in Great Neck Island, Long Island, who is an attorney. And I'm like, what does this mean they're opening my case? She says they believe in you and they want. And so they're taking me to litigation sooner than next June.
Okay. So what is the class action suit for Abilify for? What is it saying that it wasn't doing?
Okay, so it's not necessarily.
Was it placebo-ish?
Okay, so it's not placebo-ish. It's what happens is, okay, so by Abilify treats, like, if you follow mental illness, you understand a lot of the symptoms go coincide, and like, you can be a bipolar and have a lot in common with the depressant, but the depressant doesn't mean you're bipolar and yada, yada, yada. So symptoms are kind of like blah, 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 blah. But the question was, what the drug Abilify was doing, when you're bipolar, you, I don't know if it's
ups and downs, manics.
Besides your manic depressive, and then your hypomania, which I'm the hypomania type. You know what I mean?
Clearly.
I'm not really the I know. I love it. I love it. All my friends, I just love being, it's who I am, and it just gets heightened. But what it does is that in the natural state of a bipolar, you're going to have a lot of, like, I think before I speak now. But it's a lot of compulsive issues.
Okay.
Sexual deviancy is one of them. I mean, I'm a sexual deviant, but I'm not a sexual deviant, you know what I mean? So that wasn't one of my issues, but that is one of the things that they're suing for. Gambling, compulsive eating, and compulsive spending.
So Abilify was increasing these things?
Abilify was increasing your compulsive... Mania. Yeah, where it should have been...
suppressing it.
Suppressing it. It was irritating it.
Yeah, see, I didn't know what that was. So, okay. So when did you find out about the class action lawsuit? 5 years ago?
No, like 4 months ago.
4 months ago. Okay. So you got... Okay. All right. So you're all on that. When you got discharged, you're leaving the Army. What did you do?
That's why I say you don't have to edit any of this. If you want to, you can. Okay, so this is interesting. What they did to me was I gave them 6 years of my life, and fuck it. If you're curious about bipolar, you can study how it gradually comes on. But for me, it started with racing thoughts. Like I think of it as a fire hydrant pushed over and the water coming out. That's how much, is going through my brain at any given moment in time. And it's not necessarily like negative thoughts and stuff, because I don't put bad things in my head, so bad things don't come out. Like, I'm innocent. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt anybody else. I don't hear things and I don't see things. And those are all 4 solid truths. But like, you can have rushing thoughts, just like mania. It's mania. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that crept on. And then in November of 2011, without getting into all the details, for some reason, the bipolar just came on full frontal. It hit me like a goddamn tsunami. And I was living in Alabama, Mobile at the time. And I had been seeing a psychiatrist, or a shrink rather. Not a shrink, but a therapist for 2 years. And she had never once suggested that I had a mental illness. And it was evident.
If you're going to see a therapist, don't you automatically have a mental illness?
Something, you know what I mean? Well, they say that.
I mean, I'm seeing a
they
shrink
say a
now,
lot of
so.
adults experience mental illness, but it's less than 6% that have it for their entire life. You can dip in and out of having a mental illness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, you're right, but there's some validity to that. But like, furthermore, what a dipshit.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck you, or even listening to me.
Yeah, like I just started seeing a psychiatrist now who has me on Zoloft, which is wonderful. I love it, but he was.
You have to take it every
I
day.
have the depression. Yeah, I do. I have obsessive compulsive disorder and depression, and he was asking me. He goes, "How long have you been depressed?" I'm like, "Oh, off and on since middle school, probably." He goes, "Oh, wow. Well, we're probably not going to be able to treat your depression because you've had it so long you don't know what normal feels like." My
That's bullshit.
I'm paraphrasing and I'm exaggerating a little bit on
But
on the
he's
joking
being
side.
a jokester.
So, no, he's not. He said
That's
it very
horrible
seriously.
bedside manner.
I'm saying it in a jokey way, but he basically says, "Wow, you probably don't know what normal is."
Okay, he's an idiot.
So he goes, "Let's try and treat your OCD first and see about the depression afterwards." So he puts me on Zoloft
that's kinda
for the
smart.
OCD, and I can tell you honestly, it is doing nothing for the OCD, but it's made me it's helped my depression. I've felt,
OCD medicine has helped your depression.
yes, because Zoloft is used to treat both OCD and depression.
Okay, good.
But I can still tell that I'm obsessive about things,
And you're religious about taking the pill?
Yeah.
See, I'm not.
Well, 'cause
I had to
take
get an
I take
injection.
Oh no, I take tons of pills. I take a bunch of pills every day now.
We have to get into your health. I mean, like when you're ready to talk about it.
Oh, it's all right. Did I tell you that I had 2 heart attacks and a stroke?
Yeah, I was gonna bring beers, and I'm like, yeah, well, maybe not.
Well, technically, I'm not supposed to drink on Zoloft either, but I do it anyway. But
Yeah.
so yeah. Point being, I get it. I understand. I'm seeing him. I'm seeing somebody too now. So I'm off and on in that, figuring that stuff out too.
Okay,
but, so you get
that reminds me. Okay, so anyways, just the level of the healthcare in the United States and the disconnects in mental health and how hard it is, and we won't get into all that because it's literally a whole nother fucking podcast. But my point is, I saw this therapist. She never wrote anything up. I have the note. I can pull it up. She gives me a beautiful prognosis report. Diane's well-dressed and well-spoken, has manners, and she cares about her son. No, bitch, I'm telling you, I fucking miss my son, you goddamn whore. You know what? It's tearing my life apart. None of that was written up. Anyways, long story short, I love being open. Fuck it. My name is Abigail Maloney, or I'm going to change my identity now that I'm giving you all this information. All right. So anyways, long story short, and then I went to, I'm like, well, I'm going to get a second opinion because I think something's going on, you know? And I got a second opinion and told them everything that was going on. And they had the recommendation of my therapist. And I'm like, well, you know, I think I'm bipolar. This sucks to admit. I've never heard of it before, but a couple people have said that they think I'm bipolar. So they gave me Xanax.
Okay.
For being bipolar, which is like sticking oil into the fire hydrant and hoping that it'll clog the water. No, it's just going to spill out.
Okay, so Xanax didn't work.
Xanax doesn't do shit for being bipolar.
I have no idea. I don't know, but okay.
But Abilify did. Abilify did save my life. I have to give it to you. But it wore off very quickly. And it did incite compulsive spending immediately. But what happened was I was fine and dandy. I fit very well into the good old boys club that was the Alabama National Guard. When it comes to work and seriously taking it professional, I'm a fucking bad bitch. Just love it. I loved it. I love working, you know.
So where's your son while you re-enlisted?
I'll tell you that in a minute.
Okay.
Because this is important, you know this. He was with me half the time every year until this.
You guys shared custody.
Yeah. Because I could feel myself sick before we got the divorce, like getting really sick. And nobody in his family was helping me, and he wasn't helping me. And I just knew I had to get away from my son. So that's how I left my son, because I was becoming very ill.
Okay.
Very quickly.
The postpartum and the bipolar stuff.
Everything. Okay. So there's that. But anyways, so what the military did is I ended up, you know, everybody wrote me off as just being quirky. Everybody wrote me off as just being weird, except for this one lieutenant. And she's like, "Are you seeing somebody?" I'm like, "Yeah, her name's Dr. Mistrone." And she started asking me questions. I'm like, "Yeah, Dr. Mistrone just says I'm fine, but I think something else is wrong because I can't get over any of this." And so long story short, the only time I've ever hurt myself is I cut my finger at a Waffle House because I thought Steve Jobs Aristotle, quote, had told Steve Jobs to pass me the torch and I was to take over Apple. But I needed to get out of the South because I thought everybody was trying to kill me. So the only way I figured I could get out of the South is if the black ladies at the Waffle House would help me get out, but I didn't have a pen, so the only thing I could sign in was blood. I cut my finger. I know.
That paranoid, insane thoughts. Yeah, that comes along with bipolarness.
Thank you. But that's about as nuts as it gets. But no, so, and then I get to the hospital. There's only two ways to get admitted to a mental hospital. There's voluntary and involuntary. Or if you want to hurt yourself, or if you want to hurt other people, you're automatically in, right? I had cut my finger, and the Mobile Infirmary stitched it up and sent me home. When they asked me why I cut my finger, I told them because Aristotle told Steve Jobs to pass me the torch because I was going to do over Apple. And the Mobile Infirmary still sent me home. And only like 6 years later, this is all going to come into sense, did I even figure out what a statute of limitation was. Like, and in the medical field, they're really short time periods. You know what I mean? So like Revenge Dianne came in here in a minute. So I go to one mental hospital finally. Like, okay, so Mobile Infirmary didn't admit me, but this lady's still tracking me. They sent me to go get evaluated. Mental hospitals suck. They're not like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. They're not fun. You know what I mean?
No,
like
they're sad and depressing. Yeah,
they're sad and depressing, and like orange
dangerous.
Juice is never enough. Like they're tiny little orange juice cups, and you have whatever. Okay, long story short, I go to one. I get diagnosed. Too late, yeah. I get diagnosed. You can cut any and all this out if you want.
Keep going. I'm
I get diagnosed. They give me Depakote, which and lithium. Depakote and lithium to start off with. And since I'm so convincing as a normal person or whatever, they let me have internet access where I wrote some of my friends, acquaintances, music buddies, help, I'm in a mental hospital. They won't let me out. A couple of them didn't talk to me for a couple of years. I freaked some people out. But who in their right mind lets a mental institution patient use the computer?
Yeah, that wasn't the best decision on their part. No.
I kind of want to read those emails that I sent out in those dark days.
So how old were you when this happened?
I was I'm 32 now, and it was 2011. Was I 26 or 27?
So yeah, 26, 27. Okay,
so it's right around the time it comes on.
Okay.
Anyway, so I go to the first mental institution, and that I was there through Halloween and Thanksgiving. So I'm like, fuck this. I love these holidays. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I mean, I might be clinically insane and overly paranoid, but I'm a pragmatist when I'm thinking clearly and God damn it, Halloween's fun. So, anyways, first mental hospital sucks. I met this girl. She thought her baby was Jesus. That was weird. I tried talking her out of it.
And had you already left Ryan and the kid at that point?
We'll get back to that. Yeah. That happened several years before that.
Yeah. Well, it's also interesting because is this what is the how you were treated in the mental institution and with the military not believing you and all that stuff? Is that why that you've been involved in veteran affairs?
Hold on.
That thing could not have come at a better moment.
I know. It all kind of is involved together. And just let me finish real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so left first mental institution, Depakote lithium. Depakote made my eyes dark, and the lithium I heard made me fat, so I stopped taking it. And I was living in an apartment with the electricity was down. I was throwing up everywhere. It was a fucking shamble. You know what I mean? And nobody was there because I didn't have any friends or family. And the command had left me go. No, she already went to the mental institution. She's fine. No, I wasn't. So I was off my meds, and then I forget what triggered them. I had one conversation with the commander, and they're like, she needs to go back, which was the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. So I go back to this new mental institution under the pretenses that it's going to be on the Gulf of Mexico with waves and beach and palm trees. They're like, it's called Gulf Oaks. You're going to love it. And I'm like, fine, I'll go. You know what I mean? But, here's the funny part. I'm like, you guys need to let me out of this mental institution, out of the Army. I'm going to Harvard.
Okay.
Which made me sound crazier.
Yes.
Right? But it was I was in touch with the Harvard Extension. Anybody can really.
Oh, yeah, Harvard Extension. Anybody can get it, yes.
But according to them, it was just all right, now she wants to go to Harvard.
Well, it's not Harvard. It's Harvard Extension. But yes, it's Harvard, yeah.
I wasn't telling them
it's Harvard
Extension.
finger quotes.
With Harvard finger quotes.
Yeah.
I wasn't telling them it was the extension. I was just no, I have a real chance of going to Harvard. Give me a break. They kept me in a couple weeks longer for that one. Anyways, so I got to the second one. And then the very next day, after I got out of my second mental institution, they said, guess what, Diane? You know how you want to go to Harvard? Here you go. Here's your paperwork. You're out.
Discharge for mental.
No. They didn't want to deal with me anymore. On my paperwork, they gave me an RE code of 1, which means I'm allowed to come back in. And they just wanted me off their hands because it was going from staff sergeant to staff sergeant would have to watch me like I was on suicide watch or something. They didn't I'm kind of cool right now, but if I drink, I get really hyper, and I can be hard to handle when I'm hyper. And when I was psycho,
I'm having enough trouble roping you in just to tell your story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I can't imagine. Yeah, if you're drunk out of your gourd, yeah.
The command didn't want to deal with me anymore.
Yeah.
So they just let me go.
So they discharged you. Okay.
With no health insurance.
Oh, ooh, not good for someone who needs to take medication to make them normal.
Every day for the rest of my life. So, the asshole brother-in-law that made me paint the wall?
Yeah.
That son of a bitch. The day after I got out of the military, he sent me to the Veterans Benefit Administration. And he's like, you have a disability and you were in the hospital while you were in the Army. You need to document this now. So I document it. I let go of the paperwork for 2 years. Because I really, for all intents and purposes, I have an income now. But I was very homeless after leaving the military because I refused to live with my family. And then so I would just travel, you know what I mean? We can get into this all later, but long story short, they fucked me over because they didn't want to deal with me anymore. What should have happened is I should have gotten the medical full retirement discharge with a severance pay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was in for 6 fucking years. It wasn't 6 days in training. You know what I mean? There should have been a medical board, a process, which would have taken 4 months. That would have been 4 months of them mandatory babysitting me. They didn't want to do it. I should have been not kicked out, but released under these medical conditions with an RE code of never coming back instead of the RE code of 1. So I contacted an attorney. I'm set for life.
Oh, nice. You're one of the lucky people.
But no,
that
because
that
I know how to read and write. And
But there's plenty of veterans who don't have that access, who don't have that, or don't have the paperwork behind them, or just somebody who's going to fight for them. So
or they get denied and they don't know they can appeal.
Yeah.
Or they get an attorney. Like I did it all without an attorney. Yeah, there's, you know what, we've been talking about so many things that can, I'm a subject matter expert on, it goes into a million different directions. No, these veterans aren't being taken care of.
No.
And later on, I did end up getting them for everything, by the way. Like, as soon as I got medicated and I could think clearly, I said, hey, wait a minute. You know what I mean? And then, so that's kind of what the process of it now. So do I feel bad that I'm a part of a class action lawsuit? No, I don't. Do I feel bad that I'm going to get my full medical retirement and my son's going to be able to go to college for free because I'm totally and permanently disabled? No, I don't. Do I feel bad that I'm collecting the Social Security that I paid into? No, I don't. And my veterans benefits are entitlements. So no, I don't. I don't feel bad about any of that. What I feel bad about is that there are probably 450 to 575,000 veterans out there right now who are starving, homeless, can't advocate for themselves, that are entitled to the same exact thing that I have. And it shouldn't make any of you guys sick out there, because veterans are who you need to take care of first, right?
Anybody who needs help with this country should be taking care of them, especially somebody that fought for it and
but
gave
I don't want
rights for us.
I guess I'm kind of I don't want to feel guilty.
Do you feel like you have a survivor's remorse?
I
don't know if survivor's remorse is the right way.
I think it's a.
Do you feel guilty?
I feel guilty, it's a spit in the face when my best friend Sarah. I don't know if she knows any better, if she's just being a cunt, but she's like, I pay for you, Dianne. And I kind of want to say well, didn't I? I'm only getting certain, and it's not a lot of Social Security, my other paycheck, but I'm pretty sure I paid into that.
Yeah, but also you're getting all this because they didn't take care of you when you needed it to.
No,
if they would have done the right thing at the right
time.
time.
I was 2 years before I'd get health insurance again. And bipolar can mirror schizophrenia in a way. I wasn't seeing or hearing things, but God, it was scary.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting into it because this is not crimey hour.
Yeah.
But do I feel bad for taking them and knowing what,
No, you shouldn't.
No, I don't. So I don't. And I'm also not trying to suckle off the teat of the government for the rest of my life, but because I am disabled and I know how to read, there's a grant that'll help me start my own business for $25,000. And then I'll contract to the government. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all this money comes in, and that's what we're talking about. So what do you do with all this money? I'm giving it to my son.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about it. I think you need enough money to eat, have a roof over your head. But for it to be, causing wars and oil and unfair monopolies and impoverished third world countries that will never recover because people, 2-3 families are making money off of the resources in those third world countries here in America or something like that. It's not fair. You know what I mean? So I do feel kind of, and I don't like disclosing the money, but then everybody wants to know. I call it a frequently asked question. Well, what do you do for a living? Well, I do this. I'm a director. I'm a producer. Okay. Well, where'd your money come from? Then I'm I never tell people that, well, first of all, I had to bend about 5 different lawsuits, but they all worked out.
When did you start getting involved in making films?
Thank you for changing.
Because you went to the Tisch School of Acting?
Tisch is amazing. I went to a better. Tisch is cool.
Oh, it's an amazing school. I went somewhere better then.
I did. What Tisch does is an NYU school, and it's so fabulous. But Ted Zerkowski, my acting for comedy teacher at the Lee Strasberg, for instance, teaches a class at Tisch. But Tisch gives their students an incredible opportunity to study at any of the group theater being Stella Adler, Sandy Meisner of
the Meisner Method, yeah.
The Meisner Method, but he has the Playhouse in Manhattan, and Stella Adler has the Stella Adler Studio, and Lee Strasberg has Lee Strasberg Institute, and there's the New School, and I don't think Juilliard plays too well with Tisch, but I know Tisch will let their students take classes simultaneously at the Strasberg, at Sandy Meisner's place, and at Stella, and so on and so forth. But so, like, essentially Tisch students, because I went to Stella Adler and the Lee Strasberg, Tisch students paid to go to where I was going. So I'm very proud of my time spent at the Lee Strasberg and all those.
You went for
places.
acting, or?
I went for acting. Oh yeah, which bleeds in. Okay, so after so I get all the money that, you know, should have been there, and I'm finally, I can breathe again. But I'm like, so what do people do? You know, you keep working. That's what, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I networked my position into, ironically, working for the Veterans Benefit Administration, which are highly coveted jobs, very hard to get. GS-12, so you're making six figures in 7 years, and you're, you know, I was in the HR office, and I'm sorry if this all gets boring, but, you know, the day the lady who hired me was retiring, and they're like, you getting the black on black or the black on tan Mercedes? Nobody leaves these jobs, you know what I mean? But I was sitting in the office as the examiner. I'm reading people's medical records all day, and they're interesting for the first 100,000. Then the job never changed, and I started looking into acting schools. And I said, you know, I'm making enough money to where I don't have to do this job, and it's just for more money. And I don't know how to. I conceptually, I've never really understood money. We didn't grow up with it. My dad, I didn't. I understand that I'm kind of depressed when I don't have a lot of it.
When did you? Okay, that's fine. But what made you want to go to acting school? Was it because you were doing journalism stuff and you're like, you want to be on a documentarian?
Yeah.
Or?
Oh no, what made me go to acting school is because when I was a kid, I was a Lockheed kid, and we would watch a lot of television, old Hollywood, AMC, but my favorite was Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
And I was kind of smart back then, like you just seem inherently smart. So I'm like, well, how did these people get on Saturday Night Live, and where did they come from? And so I started doing research, or like, you know, interrogating, you know what I mean? Like my godmother, the one who I said I'm going to join the military, she makes me watch Hair before I do it, make an informed decision. But, and she said, oh, they, you know, the Second City, I kept hearing the Second City in my head. And this was even before Tina Fey or like, you know, Stephen Colbert was even there. It was just the core group of just, you know, Gilda Radner and, you know, Elaine May and Mike Nichols, the founders, and just everything about the Second City. So I lived in Chicago for about 2 years, just getting on new medications. And finally, when I felt stable enough to go, and I did it. I did 3 or 4 levels. I'm in advanced improv at the Chicago's Second City in Scenic Improv. Very, very happy about that. It was the start of my, I say that if, you know, everything that happened that we just went over, it can leave, I don't judge a man of how he falls, you know what I mean? But it is how you pick yourself back up and where you go from there. That's what I'll judge your character on. And if I put on my LinkedIn profile, if like, you know, if I were a heart patient, then, you know, the Second City were the real world-renowned cardiologists that came back and performed heart surgery on me and brought me back to life. They really did. Improv changed my life. And I was like, you know, I've always loved acting. I can't even watch Netflix or anything. I want to act. That's all I want to do. And so I found an acting school.
And now you're making films.
I'm making films because I went to acting school. I went to a couple different acting schools before I found my favorite, the Lee Strasberg. But in between, which is a funny story I should tell you one day, how I got my first casting director intern position, which was at Liz Louis Casting. And I noticed who they were casting and what they were casting for and what these people looked like. And I quickly realized that nobody was just going to walk up to me and say, hey, Diane, you want to be in a movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you decided to take it into your own hands and start making it. Take it into my own hands. So so right now, that's why you're in Boston now, is because you're making...
I'm in Boston because I ran away from Chicago. Just kidding. No, I'm in Boston.
Oh, that's why I'm here. I ran out of bridges to burn in Baltimore. I needed new
We still
bridges.
should- yeah, I want to interview you. You should do my podcast.
So wait,
No, it's
so
okay.
You're here because you're making a movie.
I was taking a directing class at Harvard.
That's what you were telling me the other day. Directing class at Harvard. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, so
I knew you were in town
fuck
just for the
you,
summer.
everybody at the mental institution. I did make it Harvard Extension Summer School, but I didn't make it. God damn it! I said getting up to Boston's like climbing a Nepalese mountain. Took forever.
So you're taking the directing class, and then while you're here in class and school, you're making a movie with a bunch of comedian friends that I know.
Yeah, Bad Ballerina. We were supposed to do Bad Ballerina. Bad Ballerina is something I shot in New York a year ago, last summer. It was birthed that I was taking a ballet class at Lee Strasberg. I'll be honest, I was kind of hungover. I know it's not attractive. And I had these little raccoon eyes, and I was just feeling fat and bloated, and they're pirouetting and going through, these dance, these skills, these moves. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, Dianne, you're just a bad ballerina. You're a bad ballerina. So I left class early, and I'm like, fuck this ballet class. And, I'm not going to belittle myself by looking at myself fail miserably while everybody else is so graceful on their toes, so to speak. So I left the class, and I jaywalked while lighting a cigarette. I pushed over an old lady and barreled my way through a crowd, crashed in Union Square Park, and said, damn, I was breaking the law. Breaking the law. And I was like, Bad Ballerina. Bad Ballerina breaking the law should be a series of ballerinas doing bad shit and never suffering the ramifications of their actions. No. Everybody else in the wake of their madness suffers the ramifications of their actions. Enter my protagonist, Gabriel Pacheco. He's amazing. We'll watch Bad Ballerina together sometime. Yeah.
You're writing Bad Ballerina. Is that what you're filming here?
I wrote Bad Ballerina 1, and the intention was to do Bad Ballerina 2, The Bad Librarian, starring Valley.
Okay.
And we did some press for it. I was on Fallon's Daily Toast, and I mulled over it, and I wrote it, and I'm old fashioned, so I write on paper, and maybe I wasn't committing it because I didn't take a picture and save it to my G Drive. For some reason or another, I lost fucking gusto in this project.
Gusto?
The
Je ne sais quoi.
the je ne sais quoi.
Okay, gotcha.
It was just I knew I wanted to work with Gabriel. I love Gabriel. And having him return to the screen adds continuity to my body of work. You know what I mean? You see it all the time. Brat Packs and such. And I know I love working with him, and I still wanted to work with Valley, but Bad Ballerina was done. In my eyes, there was a couple locations that I had set, and they had to pull out. We had a motorized boat, and then it just logistically, nothing was really coming together. And I can write a treatment for a character. Writing dialogue plays not my forte. So it's like a Larry David blueprint, base outline, kind of open dialogue. That's why I love improvers and smart comedians. But your question?
What is the movie that you're filming here? Bad Librarians, which is the sequel to Bad
Librarian. Bad Ballerina. Bad Librarian got canned last minute. Called a bipolar choice.
So the thing that you came here that you were going to film, the sequel to Bad Ballerina,
is done.
Not going to happen.
Not this summer.
When did this happen? We just talked Saturday.
I know. I have a new plan.
So literally 6 days ago, you told me you were here to film a movie. That you were going to film a movie. You're taking the direct class. You're going to make this thing with her tomorrow.
Well,
That's why we couldn't do it.
I know,
over
but
the weekend.
listen. Half the shoots are outside. They're on the Charles River. Then I had them in the boat, and then the boat got canceled. All my shots are outside. There's a 60% chance of rain in the area for the next fucking 2 years in Boston.
Yeah, the weather is fucking ridiculous. It's
And I
July
told you about the
14th,
Dunstable Mass.
and it's 60 degrees outside. It's retarded.
I mean, I love
hate
it,
this
kind
thing.
of. I love.
So
the
you told me
cooler
about the
weather.
barn. Are you going to be using it for a location?
Well, yeah. Let me
movie,
tell
or
you.
is
Let me
the
tell you.
complete
So
project
we scrapped Bad Ballerina, and we
2.
need Bad Ballerina. The Bad Librarian 2 is postponed. It's not necessarily scrapped because I want to make Bad Ballerina. Bad Ballerina goes to Bora Bora really bad, and I can't do that without it too. So, being the improviser that I am, I asked Fallon O'Brien to marry me. I'm like, come on. I'm like a gold mine, hidden benefits. Just let me take care of you. Make me an honest woman. And she said no. And I'm like, let's debate this, which I think is great. So we're taking the Dunstable, Mass, John Mason, the guy lending us the house.
The barn.
And I'm not really allowed to talk about it because Gabriel was interviewed earlier about it and he didn't talk about it. Let's just say we're going to have a conversation all around. I'm 32 and it's around marriage. And it's around open marriage. It's, the idea, kids, do you want kids? I don't want kids. Do I want kids? All of a sudden I want kids. Now we're talking about kids. You know what I mean? Money. You know what I mean? But there is a surprise. Like Valley in the end is going to throw Gabriel okay, so by the way, now that, because I hope they see eye to eye in the end. It is a love story or whatever. Then she's going to be like, yeah, well, thank you for loving me. Now I'm going to take care of you for the rest of your life because I'm a millionaire. Because that's what happened to me with Ryan. I visited Florida and I came home and I was like, Ryan, it's not that I don't love you. It's just I'm not in love with you anymore. And I might have fallen in love with somebody else. And if I did that, then that's not fair to you. I never cheated on him. And then I'm like, I hope everything goes well in your life. And he's like, yeah, everything's going really well. Because his mom just married some super fucking loathy dude. And everything's... So I'm just like, you know what I mean? It's like irony. It's life. You know what I mean? Like, would this change anything? That didn't change anything for me. I wasn't going to kiss Ryan's ass and try to fall back in love with him just because I found out there's Escobar money in the family now.
So the thing that you're shooting tomorrow with Val and Brian is his name? Or Gabriel? Gabriel. Okay. I felt like there was a Brian mentioned somewhere, and I get confused. I wasn't writing down notes, so I forget things. That's why I have the pad and paper. The thing you guys are shooting is documentary?
Conversation around marriage. And I would like to know, you know what I mean? Like, if in fact, how much
is Valerie getting
money would...
Is Valerie getting married?
No, but Valerie's a smart girl. Nobody's getting married.
Okay.
It's just a conversation. Like, when I was at the Second City, I was friends with this girl named Shada Grassi. She produces Mortified. If you look it up, it's all around the country. But she was a friend of mine at the Second City, and she said she was dating a guy from Boston, and they broke up, and she had a good friend. She's like, yeah, this girlfriend of me, we're going to have a Boston marriage. And I said to myself, well, what's a Boston marriage? The way she described a Boston marriage to me was that, two people come together, they live amicably in an open or not open relationship, that they share the finances, that it's usually an artistic, union, and everybody has their cake and eat too. Well, she's an asshole. She wasn't. Yeah, and then I interviewed these other people, and they said a Boston marriage is like that transatlantic old money couple, and that's a Boston marriage. And then there's marriage. And then there's what I find most fascinating, the open relationship. And I think that's a can of worms. So what basically we're doing tomorrow is we're going to John Mason, the co-producer. I'm going to give him that credit. We're going to his property in Dunstable, Mass. From 10 o'clock to 3. And we are going to film hopefully a very riveting conversation with polarizing viewpoints. And under my direction, we'll get a lot of intel.
Is this going to be a documentary or is this fiction?
This is fiction.
Okay, so that's why I got.
Anytime you're working with comedians and giving them the liberty to improv, fiction is just, it's fiction.
The way it sounded like you're shooting a documentary almost with people's opinions about marriage. Okay.
No, that's just because we've been talking for 3 hours and my inflection. I'm afraid I'm getting monotone because I'm really excited about this.
It sounds like it's going to be interesting now that I know it's fiction.
I mean, it's something to pull out of my ass. Valley, she's been all around the world this summer, Russia, Cyprus, and she's been telling her friends and family she's getting, she's starring in Bad Ballerina. Gabriel, for Christ's sake, he landed today with Amber, you know what I mean? Thinking they're all going to be doing Bad Ballerina. I had to give them something. So why not discuss marriage, for Christ's sake?
As characters.
I'm placing them as the intellectual elite, like in, where are we? New England. So I think Gabriel brought a peach shirt, a peach collared shirt, and maybe some loafers.
Okay.
And a fedora.
Alrighty. Sounds very douchey, which I think that's what he was aiming for. When this is done, where are they going to be able to see it?
You know, a lot of people say that. I'm kind of against Vimeo because it's like they have a very... Vimeo. I've had nothing but problems uploading.
I hate them. Every time they're like, I get that they're uncompressed and you get better image, but it takes so long to load. I mean, it shouldn't take that long.
No,
I've never been able to watch a Vimeo video all the way through.
You know,
because it keeps pausing and I just throw my hands up and I give up. But that's why. YouTube is compression, but it's good compression and I like it and it's quick and fast and I have no problems with it. So.
And then there's Facebook, which is a double-edged sword. Not only does it have the fastest motherfucking uploader, but you can't extract the file later on. I mean, there's one way you can do it. You can go into your settings and extract your entire file at any point in time and puts it in a zip. And you can send it to your G drive. Archives literally every footprint you make. But in this case, it's not easy to pull videos off of Facebook that you uploaded fastly onto. So I don't know. That's what the New England School of Photography in the first year that I'll be there. They're gonna teach us website building content.
Okay.
As of right now, it's just I'm a junkie for myself. Like doing all this publicity makes me, really feel like. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I am a director and a producer, but it makes me feel a little more real. But I don't have a professional outlet for it right now because I couldn't even get anybody to watch Bad Ballerina 1. You know what I mean?
Well, where can people see that?
On my Facebook.
So it's only up on Facebook.
I'll release it again on Facebook, but
forget Facebook. Why don't I put it up on YouTube too? But if you put it on more outlets, the more outlets you put it out on, the people are able to see it.
I know, which is cool.
Because trust me, promoting a thing is a whole nother job. Promoting, what's it? A short? How long is Bad Ballerina?
I guess I should give a shit because people do need to see this.
How long is Bad Ballerina? 10 minutes? 20
26.
minutes? 26. Wow, that's a long short.
It was unedited. I mean, it was edited, but like I kept a lot in because it was like a director's cut.
Yeah, you got to learn to kill your babies.
Yeah.
I still have a problem with it myself, especially when it comes to joke writing. There's certain jokes that I still tell just because I enjoy them. Do you have a website yet? Or YouTube?
The best way to find me is
because when this conversation
random Wednesdays
marriage.
on Jed's basements. No, the best way to get a hold of me is Dianne the Magnificent. That's
on Instagram.
Dianne, the Magnificent spelled correctly. That's at Gmail.
Okay.
And then there is Dianne the Magnificent on Instagram.
Yep. And there you have it, my podcast with Dianne Carroll, counterintelligence agent and filmmaker. It was a fascinating listen. All right, so here's the thing though. You just heard her talk about all the movies and stuff like that, and she was going to do the marriage talk thing with them. That never happened because later that night, I ended up giving her a ride home, and in the midst of the car, we were talking, and I was like, "Hey, you know what? I got these small short sketches. If you ever want to work together and make these, I'd be happy." And she's like, "Oh yeah, great. What are they?" And I give her the link to where I store everything, and she's reading. I was like, "Oh, these are great. Hey, can I make one of these tomorrow instead?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Go make 2 of them. I don't care as long as they get made." So she ended up making one of my sketches with Valley and Gabriel Pacheco. So they end up making it. She's still in the editing process. So when that's out, and I'll put a link to it on deadairdennis.com and I'll tweet about it. So if you follow me on social media, you'll see about it. And I think she's making another one of my things. I don't care. Just credit me. If you want to make one of the dumb sketches I write, which aren't many of them, just be my guest. Go for it. They're all up online at deadairdennis.com. Just, credit me as the writer. That's all I care. I just want them to be made. I think they're funny. I think they're good. So we'll see how those turn out in the future. I saw a little bit of a rough draft and they improv'd a little bit, which I like. So I think it'll be good. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, fascinating talk about mental health. We went deep into it. Because, there's a lot there and a lot of people are suffering from it. So it's something that we had to talk about. Something else I got to talk about is Comics Comedy Club in Mohegan Sun. I did that last night. And, well, here's the thing about it. I did not move on to the second round. Basically, it's a competition thing that this club does. I did it 2 years ago when it was at Foxwoods. They're at Mohegan Sun now, which is a casino in Connecticut, which is not far from Foxwoods. It's like basically across the street. And I had a great set. I'm happy with it. I did not move on. I had a fun trip all the way out to Connecticut with my former roommate's dog. I'm dog sitting, and I brought Pepper, this adorable, cute beagle that's sitting in my lap right now, just quietly just laying there. Never barks. I'm house sitting at their place, and yesterday the mailman came by, or Saturday the mailman came by, and she just got up and went, "Brr." Like, it's not even a bark or a growl, it's just "Brr." And she's adorable. So she's just sitting here in my lap as I'm recording this. But yeah, so it was a fun trip. I enjoyed it. I got laughs. I think I got a pretty decent tape out of it. We'll see. So I'm happy about that. So comedy things, that's it. And then I'm doing I don't want to say taking a break. I'm not taking a break. In the month of August, I am not doing any comedy shows, and I'm not working to have any because I have a ton of rehearsals for this play that's coming out. I'm doing it's a series of short plays for this local theater group, and it's called the Festival at First 9. Festival at First 9. So it's a weird group. I'm not even quite sure who they are, but they're great. It's 6 short plays all about Boston, and I'm doing one of the plays in it, and they're all pretty funny, and I'm actually impressed with how funny a lot of them are. But here's the thing. They hired me, they casted me in the only role that is not comical. Like, I play a guy who beats his wife that dies in the Cocoa Club fire of 1942 or whatever it is. That's apparently a very famous fire here in Boston. Every other sketch, hilarious. Me, they even specifically said, hey, the role's there's not a lot of jokes in it. You were very funny in the audition. But the role does have a lot of opportunities for you to do physical comedy, where I think you shine the most in the audition. And I was like, I didn't do anything physical, and the only physical comedy stuff is roughing up another guy. Like, it's gonna be a good play. So if you're in the Boston area, we're doing it at one of my favorite places, the Rockwell in Davis Square, formerly the Davis Square Theater, but it's now called the Rockwell. It's right next to the Saloon if you're on Elm, if you're familiar with it. But yeah, we're doing a bunch of those, like August 18th through the 26th shows, Friday, Saturday. And I think there's a matinee on Sunday. DeadairDennis.com if you want to check that out. It's going to be a fun play. I'm actually really impressed with what everybody's bringing to the table on that, because I walked into it and I was like, oh, community theater. Oh, you guys wrote it yourself? Oh, as I make a jerking off motion. But they're actually very talented. A lot of them were very talented. And the writing is actually very good. And I'm very impressed with it. I'm very happy I'm a part of it. And I'm glad that they made me a part of it as well. So if you want to do that, check that out. And like I said, stay to the website and we'll see more coming up about the sketches as they get finished and they get filmed and get put online. So anyway, thank you again for listening.
the time.